She's not Sarah Morrison." The shout echoed through the glittering ballroom as the petite woman turned around, her eyes blazing no longer like those of a victim. The fiery slap that landed on Nathan not only shattered the champagne glass in his hand, but also smashed the entire mask he'd built over the years. Because in that moment, Sarah revealed, she was Sarah Blackwell, the granddaughter of the family that founded the empire Nathan was scheming to seize. And tonight, in front of 300 witnesses, she would tear apart every dark secret of his. But what Sarah didn't know, the man she thought she'd cornered still had one card left to play. A sharp crash echoed in the luxurious Upper East Side apartment. Not a gunshot, but the sound of crystal shattering on the floor, breaking into 100 pieces. Sarah stood frozen, her hands still trembling, eyes fixed on the red wine spreading like blood across the polished wooden floor. Outside the window, Manhattan's golden lights filtered in, but inside this room, everything felt suffocatingly oppressive. Everyone knew Sarah Morrison as the wife of Nathan Mitchell, the ambitious young vice president of Blackwell Industries. In the eyes of high society, she was the perfect woman, gentle, discreet, always trailing behind her husband like a shadow crafted to enhance his success. No one suspected that in this glamorous apartment, behind the dazzling parties, lay a completely different truth. Sarah quietly bent down, picking up the shattered crystal pieces. Her slender hand brushed with blood, but her eyes remained bright, unflinching. Because she knew, physical wounds were nothing compared to the scars on her soul that Nathan had inflicted. And these shards reminded her, the mask of Sarah Morrison was just a shell. Her true self, with the name she'd hidden for years, was Sarah Blackwell, the last granddaughter of the founding family of the conglomerate. 3 years ago, she had chosen to enter this marriage, not for love, not out of naivety, but for one sole purpose, to expose the true face of the man the entire conglomerate hailed as the brightest star. When Nathan knelt to propose at a gala in Central Park, all of New York erupted in cheers. Sarah, in her pristine white dress, smiled radiantly for the press cameras. To the world, she was a lucky woman, chosen by a talented man with a promising future. But behind that smile was cold calculation. She was stepping into the wolf's den, accepting life in the shadows to drag the light back to herself. From the first months, Sarah saw her husband's true colors. Nathan didn't love, he possessed. He didn't protect, he controlled. One wrong word, one stray glance, and rage exploded. That night, when his hand first left a mark on her cheek, Sarah vowed to herself, she wouldn't cry, she wouldn't run. She would stay and turn this marriage into the perfect trap. The world saw only Sarah Morrison, the obedient wife. But in the darkness, Sarah Blackwell began rewriting her fate. She used skills few knew she'd been trained in: forensic accounting, data analysis, and the art of observing people. She learned to smile when Nathan boasted, to listen when he unwittingly revealed murky financial clues, to hide her sharp gaze whenever he thought he'd concealed his secrets. The apartment became a stage, and every day Sarah performed more perfectly. Nathan grew increasingly confident, believing he'd fully owned this wife. But he didn't know that every invoice, every email, every strange call was silently noted by Sarah. The bruises on her skin became silent evidence, each mark a letter in the indictment she was preparing. And then, in this moment today, as the red wine glass shattered, she realized the time to shift from observation to action was near. The crystal cut her hand, but Sarah felt no pain. She only felt hot blood pulsing through her veins, a reminder that she was still alive, still strong enough to complete her mission. Tonight, Nathan still believed he was at his peak. In the coming weeks, he'd enter decisive negotiations that could propel him straight to CEO. He was so confident he grew careless, leaving traces that a keen eye like Sarah's couldn't miss. And right now, she knew. The hunt had begun. Sarah Morrison, the image of the demure wife, would continue to exist in the world's eyes. But Sarah Blackwell, the patient hunter, was ready to step out of the shadows. The piano music echoed throughout the Central Park Gala Hall 3 years ago. Crystal chandeliers hung high, casting a soft golden light over the jubilant faces of the elite guests. That night, Nathan Mitchell took the stage, a sparkling diamond ring in hand. As he knelt before Sarah, the crowd erupted in cheers. Cameras flashed non-stop, as if this moment was scripted for the back cover of a business magazine. To the world, it was a fairy tale romance, a young, promising vice president finding the woman of his life. But for Nathan, this marriage was just the next step in his quest for power. He didn't choose Sarah for her heart, but for her background. The name Morrison, which Nathan believed was the daughter of a modest tech entrepreneur, seemed safe enough not to threaten his ambitions, yet elegant enough to enter the high society he craved. Nathan had never loved. He calculated. Every decision was based on gain and image. A beautiful wife who stayed silent, caused no trouble. The perfect piece for the success portrait he was painting. When Sarah smiled and accepted, Nathan was sure he'd won a major chess game. But he didn't know that in that moment, Sarah was playing a different game altogether. She looked at Nathan with sparkling eyes as if drowning in happiness. But deep inside, she'd already read every line of him. The sweet promises, the romantic gestures he displayed publicly, all only confirmed to her that he was a man wearing a mask no less than her own. If Nathan sought her to complete his power picture, she sought him to paint a picture of justice. The wedding took place in an ancient New York church amid winter. Snow fell thick outside, but inside, white roses lined the aisle. Sarah walked in her pure wedding gown, stepping slowly toward the altar. Onlookers saw the tremble in her hands as emotion, but only Sarah knew it was the weight of her choice. She wasn't entering a marriage, she was entering a trap. Nathan, in his tailor-made tuxedo, looked at his new bride with triumphant eyes. He held her hand, kissed her lips before hundreds of guests, as if claiming a newly acquired asset. That kiss was long, but soulless. It didn't make Sarah tremble with love, but with the affirmation that she'd positioned herself perfectly, beside the man she needed to take down. In the months after the wedding, Nathan revealed his nature more clearly. He treated his wife like jewelry, parading her everywhere for show. But behind closed doors, coldness and dominance filled the space. Sarah quickly learned that if she didn't control her emotions, cracks would show. So she learned to smile at every dinner, to laugh softly when Nathan's friends praised him, to keep her gaze gentle even when inside she wanted to scream. Increasingly, Nathan believed Sarah was the ideal wife. He grew smug, thinking he'd chosen correctly. But Sarah knew that smugness would be his downfall. A man who believes himself absolutely clever often overlooks small details, and those details are where the truth hides. She began memorizing every snippet of conversation, every invoice, every financial transaction Nathan carelessly revealed. At night, when Nathan slept off his long drinking sessions, Sarah sat quietly at her desk, eyes bright in the golden lamplight, jotting down every detail. Every number, every name, every location, all threaded together in a small notebook hidden at the bottom of her drawer. She knew this wasn't a marriage. This was a battle. And Nathan, unknowingly, had walked himself into the encirclement of a woman he thought harmless. At parties, Sarah still held Nathan's arm, smiling as if enchanted by his success stories. But when the lights went out, when the apartment fell silent, she whispered in her mind, "You're not my husband. You're my prey." Autumn mornings in Manhattan often began with the hum of traffic from Madison Avenue, golden sunlight piercing the curtains, and the steam rising from coffee in the kitchen. For many, it was a gentle start to the day. But for Sarah, that morning brought only the sting on her skin and teary eyes as she looked in the mirror. A blue-purple bruise stood out clearly on her left cheekbone, just below her elegant features. She touched it lightly, pain shooting through her temple. The first mark, and a warning, that this marriage would never be a safe haven. The night before, over a single unsatisfactory answer, Nathan had lost control. The slap came so fast Sarah couldn't brace herself. In that instant, the luxurious apartment became a cage, and the man before her was no longer a husband but a predator in a suit. She could have cried, could have fled, sought other doors for help, but Sarah didn't. She stood still, hands trembling but eyes staring straight. In that painful moment she understood. If she ran, she'd forever be a victim. But if she stayed, if she turned pain into strength, she could become the one in control of this game. The next morning, she applied makeup meticulously in front of the mirror. Layers of concealer covered the blue-purple, transforming her face back to its usual gentleness. As she stepped out, no one in the upscale neighborhood could suspect that beneath the powder was a fresh wound. Sarah smiled, entered the limousine, and became once again the perfect wife of Nathan Mitchell. But in her heart, a decision was etched deep. This would be the first bruise, and the start of the hunt. In the days that followed, Sarah observed more closely. She noted how Nathan drank more under work pressure, how he lied smoothly to friends, how midnight calls left shadows in his eyes the next morning. Every detail, every bad habit was memorized by Sarah, like a hunter quietly tracking prey signs. She also realized something crucial. Nathan wasn't just impulsively violent. He had a system. He knew when to be gentle to keep his wife close, when to be cold to control, when to explode to instill fear. It wasn't loss of control. It was tactics. And if he had tactics, she needed a bigger, longer plan. New bruises appeared on her arms, shoulders, back, each time perfectly hidden by clothes and smiles. But instead of breaking Sarah, they became silent diary entries. She began photographing them, carefully storing on a hidden hard drive, with dates and events. No longer just enduring, Sarah turned her body into living evidence, an investigation file. Some nights, she sat alone in her office, golden light illuminating her cold face. She placed her hand on the bruise on her arm, closed her eyes and whispered, "I won't fall. I'll use you to end him." The outside world still saw them as a perfect couple. At galas, Sarah held Nathan's arm, smiling gently, creating the happy portrait the press praised. But only she knew that beneath those glamorous gowns were wounds not yet healed. And with every step, she calculated the path to turn those wounds into the sharpest weapons. The first bruise wasn't just a mark of violence. It was the starting point of a transformation. From a woman entering marriage for a plan, Sarah had become a true warrior. She was no longer just observing. She had chosen to become the predator. New York nights drowned in distant sirens, neon lights flickering through windows from billboards. In the high-rise apartment, Nathan slept off a boozy party, his breathing heavy and even. Sarah quietly slipped from bed, threw on a thin cardigan, and entered her office. The door closed behind her. She turned on the small desk lamp, golden light spilling over files and an open laptop. On the screen, complex spreadsheets appeared, dozens of overlapping columns of data, bank accounts, payment invoices, unclear consulting fees. Sarah had started piecing them together months ago. She discovered mismatched numbers, shady transactions flowing through shell companies. At first, they were just small cracks in a solid wall. But the deeper she dug, the clearer it became. Not oversights, but a sophisticated embezzlement system. Sarah knew she couldn't do this alone. One small mistake, one exposed trace, and Nathan would notice immediately. So she began building a trusted circle. Small, but solid. The first was Emily Carter, a forensic accountant who'd worked with Blackwell Industries but left due to dissatisfaction with the hidden power culture. Sarah didn't reveal her true identity, only using encrypted channels to send data. Emily, with her sharp intuition, quickly spotted the gaps Sarah needed confirmed. Next was David Lawson, a renowned lawyer defending victims in New York, who'd brought many powerful men to court. Sarah approached him as Morrison, sharing just enough of the story to build trust, but not too much to reveal all. David listened, nodded slowly, and said only, "If you want to topple a man like that, be ready for war." Sarah smiled, because that's exactly what she'd prepared for. Finally, she connected with an anonymous digital expert known only as Spectre. This person helped her back up all data, hidden in secure off-site storage beyond Nathan's reach. Every email, message, photo she sent was encrypted, untraceable. The pieces began fitting. A chain of $2.3 million transactions through 3 shell companies. Unexplained payments to HR consultants that were actually hush money for harassment victims. Scattered notes matching nights Nathan vanished without explanation. The picture grew clearer, and Sarah knew she'd touched the root of a massive poison tree. But danger lurked always. Once, Nathan returned early from a meeting unexpectedly. Sarah was mid-copying data in her office. Her heart pounded, hands shaking as she quickly hid the USB in her palm. Nathan entered, reeking of alcohol, eyes narrowing as he scanned the room. "What are you doing?" His voice hoarse, full of suspicion. Sarah smiled faintly, raising her hand to yawn. "Just checking emails, love. Couldn't sleep." Nathan stared long, then nodded and left. The door closed, and Sarah slumped into her chair, cold sweat soaking her back. She knew 1 second slip, and everything would crumble. She organized the data into separate files, each with backups in multiple places. One hidden in a bank safe, one sent to Emily, one held by Spectre. Sarah understood. A hunter is only safe with multiple layers of nets. Meanwhile, Nathan grew more confident. He didn't know every word in meetings, every shady decision, every forced touch in the dark. All were being recorded, carefully and coldly. He thought he was building an empire. But Sarah was writing the indictment. Some nights, gazing through the window at the glittering city below, Sarah felt her heart tighten. She knew she was on a path with no return. But then she looked at the bruises on her body, at the faces of other women she'd encountered by chance, hearing their whispers of hidden traumas. They gave her the strength not to falter. Sarah was no longer the wife hidden behind makeup layers. She was the predator quietly setting the perfect trap, and when it closed, no one could escape. Jazz music swelled in the grand Waldorf Astoria ballroom. Crystal chandeliers dropped thousands of twinkling lights, reflecting off evening gowns and champagne flutes in the hands of the elite. This was the biggest night of the year, Blackwell Industries' annual gala. For Nathan Mitchell, it wasn't just a social event. It was the stage to prove he was ready for CEO. He had no idea that right under his feet, Sarah had laid a sophisticated trap. For months, Sarah had quietly planned tonight. She ensured key presences. Olivia Pearson, the current CEO, known for her cold fairness. Emily Carter, the forensic expert with the thick evidence file. David Lawson, the lawyer ready to drop a legal bomb at any moment. And above all, several other victims, women who'd stayed silent out of fear, now agreeing to stand in the shadows waiting for their moment to speak. Everything was calculated like a chess game. Sarah chose the Waldorf Astoria over the Four Seasons because the lighting here could be adjusted easily, allowing dramatic effects for the reveal. She sent invitations through the board office, cleverly ensuring press coverage under the guise of capturing the historic transition of the conglomerate. Even seating was meticulous. Nathan in the center, under blazing lights, Olivia and the board, right in front, Sarah, as usual, beside her husband, outwardly gentle, but eyes sharp as steel. She wore a black silk gown that hugged her figure, hair loosely flowing. To the world, she was just the supportive wife. But in her mind, tonight wasn't a gala. Tonight was a trial. Nathan took the podium. Spotlights shone down, his face radiant, smile full of confidence. He spoke of Blackwell Industries' future, global expansion, integrity, and trust, words he'd never truly lived by. The crowd applauded thunderously. Cameras flashed endlessly. In the shadows behind, Sarah felt her heart pounding. Not from fear. It was the beat of a predator about to strike. She glanced subtly at Emily, clutching the thick file folder. David Lawson stood silent, eyes on the stage, awaiting the signal. And in the corner shadows, those women, the victims, trembled, but their eyes shone, waiting for the flame to ignite. Nathan ended his speech with a promise to take the conglomerate to new heights. Applause roared. He bowed, strode back to the table where Sarah sat. In his arrogant eyes, she saw only blind hubris. He didn't know that in bowing, the noose had tightened. Sarah raised her champagne flute, smiling. That was the signal. Emily placed the file on the table. David stepped forward a few paces, as if ready to speak. Cameras instinctively turned toward the area. Olivia Pearson tilted her head slightly, her cold eyes showing rare attention. The ballroom's atmosphere shifted from joyful to expectant, as if everyone sensed something was coming. Sarah took a deep breath. She knew there was only one chance. 1 second late, if Nathan sensed it, all effort would vanish. But if timed right, this blow wouldn't just collapse Nathan's career. It would spark an unprecedented overhaul in Blackwell Industries' history. She stood. The chair scraped lightly, a small sound but enough to draw eyes. Sarah raised her glass, gentle smile on her lips, as always before. But in her eyes, a fire blazed. The elegant gala continued. Jazz music, laughter, twinkling lights. But at the central table, under the golden glow, a storm was forming. A spoon lightly tapped the champagne glass rim. The small sound rang like a bell in the luxurious room. All eyes gradually turned to Sarah, the wife known for her silence. appearing only as a shadow behind Nathan. She stood tall, graceful in her black dress, gentle smile painted on her lips. Nathan frowned slightly, not understanding why his wife wanted attention. He reached to touch her arm, intending to pull her down. But Sarah shook her head lightly. Her eyes then, cold, resolute, made Nathan's hand freeze momentarily. "Sorry for interrupting," Sarah began, voice calm, caring just enough through the murmurs. "But there's a truth I think everyone here needs to know." The air immediately hushed. Olivia Pearson raised an eyebrow, her sharp eyes intensifying. Board members turned their chairs towards Sarah. Reporters' cameras clicked on, flashes igniting. Sarah drew a deep breath. Then she spoke, each word clear like knife cuts through the long charade. "My name is not Sarah Morrison. I am Sarah Blackwell." A shockwave rippled through the ballroom. Murmurs erupted like wind through dry leaves. Nathan froze, eyes wide, staring at the woman before him. "What?" he stammered, voice choking. Sarah turned to her husband. For the first time, she didn't lower her gaze. "You married the heir to the very conglomerate you planned to swallow whole. And for the past 2 years, I've recorded everything you've done." She nodded slightly to Emily. Immediately, the forensic accountant stepped forward, placing the thick file on the board table. David Lawson followed, opening his briefcase, pulling out a series of documents. On the ballroom's large screen, numbers and images appeared. Money flows through shell companies, shady contracts, extracted internal emails. The noise turned to thick silence, all eyes fixed on Nathan. $2.3 million laundered through 3 shell companies. Sarah continued, voice icy. "Hidden expenses to silence female employees you harassed, and risky financial decisions that nearly drove Blackwell Industries to the brink." Nathan jumped up, face flushed red. "She's lying," he shouted, voice echoing through the room. "This is a conspiracy, a cheap revenge plot." Sarah didn't flinch. She pulled a small USB from her gown pocket, holding it high under the lights. "This has photos, videos, testimonies. Not just mine, but many others." In the ballroom corner, a young woman stepped out, face pale but eyes resolute. Then 2 more, 3. The long silent victims, now advancing together. They needed no words. Their presence was the strongest indictment. Olivia Pearson stood, lightly tapping the table, cold eyes fixed on Nathan. "Mr. Mitchell, do you have anything to say?" Nathan looked around, sweat pouring. The crowd no longer cheered praise but stared with anger, curiosity, horror. He stammered, then roared, "You betrayed me, Sarah." He lunged, hand raised high, intending to strike the woman who was once his wife. But Sarah didn't back down. She stood straight, eyes blazing, letting the entire ballroom witness. The predator had no power left but raw violence. Shouts erupted. Security rushed in. Nathan was restrained, thrashing like a cornered beast. Cameras flashed relentlessly, capturing every humiliating moment. Sarah lowered her hand, breathing slowly. In that second, she knew she'd won. Not just because of the evidence, but because the truth was spoken, publicly, irrevocably. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. In the ballroom, chaos exploded like a storm. An empire had shaken, all starting from a woman rising to tear off her disguise. The chaotic sounds still echoed as police escorted Nathan from the ballroom. Camera flashes captured endlessly the image of a man once hailed as Blackwell Industries' shining star, now a criminal, face twisted in rage and despair. The jazz music had stopped long ago, leaving heavy silence where people sat stunned, not yet believing what they'd witnessed. Sarah stood motionless in the room's center, chandelier lights shining down, making her the universe's focal point. Many eyes fell on her. Admiration, gratitude, but also fear, because she'd done what few dared, topple a powerful man on his own stage. Olivia Pearson approached, her usual cold demeanor now carrying a hint of respect. "Miss Blackwell," she said, deliberately emphasizing the true name. "Tonight you've changed everything, not just for this company, but for all the women who stayed silent." Sarah nodded lightly, but in her eyes, no pride. Only exhaustion and a clear awareness. This battle wasn't over. The next day, the press exploded. Every front page flooded with images of Sarah in her black dress, eyes fiery facing Nathan. She was called the mysterious heir, Blackwell's undercover warrior, even compared by one paper to the Joan of Arc of corporate world. But behind the praise was an earthquake. Stock prices plummeted. The board forced an emergency meeting. Major partners hesitated on contracts. Nathan was formally charged. The files Sarah and her team submitted to authorities were enough to turn accusations into a heavy sentence. Media reported he faced over 20 years for embezzlement and abuse. The man who once stood on the podium like a king now sat in a cell, eyes vacant. But for Sarah, victory wasn't purely sweet. She soon realized she'd stepped into a new battlefield. Some board members whispered, wary that her return as Blackwell meant the family reclaiming power. In the cold headquarters corridors, Sarah heard half-hidden remarks. She could control everything. Don't forget, Nathan couldn't do it all alone. She understood Nathan was just the first to fall. Behind him were those who'd turned a blind eye, even profited from corruption. And now, they'd protect themselves, even by making her the enemy. Still, Sarah didn't retreat. She accepted Olivia's offer to become vice president of corporate integrity, a new position created post-scandal. It wasn't just power. It was a tool to set new rules, lay foundations for a different Blackwell Industries, more transparent, fairer, safer for women. Her first day in the new office, Sarah sat before the window overlooking vast New York. In her heart, the pain hadn't faded, the nights of control, the bruises not yet vanished, the times she swallowed tears to keep secrets, but they became fuel for her resolve. She took a pen, signing her first document, Blackwell Standards, a code against harassment and internal corruption, binding everyone from interns to executives. A clear declaration. The era of hiding was over. However, as afternoon sun set, shadows crept over the city. Sarah knew truth always had a price. In that darkness, those who'd stood with Nathan wouldn't sit idle. And when a throne emptied, someone always craved to climb it. Sarah closed the file, looking up at her reflection in the opposite mirror. The woman staring back was no longer Sarah Morrison, the controlled one, nor just Sarah Blackwell, the heir, but a new image. A warrior emerging from shadows, carrying both strength and scars. She smiled faintly. The first battle ended, but the real war had just begun. The Monday morning after the exposure, Blackwell Industries headquarters blazed with lights from ground to top floor. Crowds of reporters jammed the entrance, lenses aimed at every company movement post-earthquake. Inside, tension enveloped. Employees walked faster than usual. Hallway whispers fell silent when Sarah passed. On paper, she'd just become vice president of corporate integrity. In reality, the role was a double-edged sword, power and target. Because Sarah didn't just bring hope, she was a living reminder that an untouchable had been toppled. And for those still hiding secrets, that was a threat. In the first executive meeting, Sarah sat opposite the conglomerate's most powerful faces. Olivia Pearson presided, voice cold, emphasizing full reform. Some nodded, but Sarah spotted odd glances from a few. Richard Hale, the veteran CFO famous for number tricks. Victoria Lang, HR director who'd buried dozens of complaints. They clapped in rhythm, but eyes flashed differently, wariness, even hostility. When Sarah presented the Blackwell Standards draft, declaring zero tolerance for corruption and harassment, a chill spread. Richard Hale smirked faintly. Quite noble, Miss Blackwell. But do you think idealistic principles apply in a global operation? We thrive on flexibility, not rulebooks. A few nods agreed. Sarah remained calm. Not flexibility, new rules of the game, and we'll all follow. The meeting ended outwardly peaceful, but Sarah knew war had started. That evening, returning to the apartment, an unmarked envelope lay at the door. Inside, a blurry photo of Sarah's face, snapped secretly through her office window, with scrawled red ink. Every light has shadows, don't forget. Sarah gripped the paper, fingers trembling briefly. But instead of fear, a cold smile appeared. She knew this warning wasn't just for her, but a confession. Someone was worried. And worry meant guilt. In following days, subtle attacks began. Documents Sarah requested accidentally vanished from systems. Her internal emails leaked to tabloids, twisted into stories of an heir craving power over justice. On social media, anonymous accounts spread rumors Sarah had colluded to trap Nathan for inheritance. In the board, Richard and Victoria whispered to others, sowing doubt Sarah lacked experience, was turning Blackwell into a personal tool. Clouds of suspicion gathered, and Sarah understood. They didn't need to prove her wrong, just enough doubt to make allies hesitate. In the quiet apartment, Sarah sat by the window, city lights twinkling like thousands of eyes. Emily called, voice worried. They won't stop. You toppled one, but others won't allow it. Sarah, are you sure you want to continue? Sarah paused, then replied slowly. Emily, I didn't start this to stop at Nathan. If I stop, all those silent women will stay in darkness. I can't let that happen. She hung up, looking at her reflection in the mirror. The old bruises had faded, but heart scars remained, and those scars were the fire keeping her going. While the city buzzed outside, Sarah knew clearly, the new war had begun. Nathan was just the sacrificed pawn. The real wolves in suits on the board were her next opponents. And this time, they wouldn't err like Nathan. 4 days after Nathan's fall, Blackwell's building stayed lit all night. But this time, not for celebration, but crisis containment. Press endlessly questioned, who let Mitchell manipulate so long? Is Blackwell still safe for women? At the storm's center, Sarah Blackwell's name repeated non-stop. By day, she was front-page hero. By night, underground news, anonymous blogs, finance forums called her She-Wolf, the one who'd staged a trap on her husband to seize inheritance. Blurry old photos surfaced, stitched into narratives claiming Sarah wasn't clean. In a closed meeting, Sarah entered the room thick with opposition. Olivia Pearson sat at the head, eyes cold but silent. Richard Hale and Victoria Lang differed. They attacked with words, sharp as knives. To the board, Richard spoke, voice smooth like a politician. We face a trust crisis, and ironically, the justice symbol is causing the divide. Sarah stayed silent, letting him continue. Victoria added, Miss Blackwell, can you honestly tell us if your actions were for the company or personal revenge? Why hide your identity, deceiving the board for 2 years? The question rang, drawing probing eyes from others. This was the first strike, sow doubt. They didn't need proof of wrong, just make her controversial. Sarah breathed deep. She stood, eyes scanning the room. I hid my identity because I knew Nathan would destroy anyone opposing him directly. I became his wife to see the truth from inside. And the truth is, he stole company money, harmed our employees. If I'd stayed silent, we'd lose more than reputation. Silence enveloped. A few approving nods, but Sarah saw. Richard and Victoria had planted doubt seeds. She'd face a long campaign. That afternoon, exiting the building, Sarah was swarmed by reporters. Questions barraged, many knife-sharp. Miss Blackwell, rumors say you plotted against Nathan before marriage. True? Do you really care for victims? Or just want power? Some say you're using your fame for a new dictatorship at Blackwell. Response? Sarah didn't answer. She stepped into the car, closing the door on the noise. But in her eyes, a spark ignited. She understood. This was no longer private play. This was media war, and who controlled the narrative won. That night, Sarah sat with Emily and David in the apartment. On the table, laptop screens showed articles, comments, analyses. Emily worried. They're rewriting the story. If public turns, you'll lose all power. David added. Smart move. They don't attack direct. They make you the company's burden. Sarah closed her eyes, thinking silently. Opening them, her voice lowered. If they want media war, I'll show I don't just hunt in shadows. I'll step into the light. But this time, not alone. I'll pull other women out with me. She decided. Not just counterattack, but turn smears into catalyst for a real movement. Next morning, Sarah appeared on a major talk show. Lights shone on her face. The host asked, Rumors say Miss Blackwell acted for self-gain. What do you say to millions doubting? Sarah looked straight at the camera, voice firm. I didn't act for myself. I acted for women who couldn't speak. and I'll continue, no matter the smears. That moment spread fast. Thousands of social comments, many women sharing their stories, tagging Sarah as symbol. Richard and Victoria likely didn't expect their counterstrike to ignite a stronger movement. Torrential rain poured over New York one October evening. Sarah sat in the car, flipping through the final Blackwell Standards draft. Outside, streets blurred behind wet glass, neon lights streaking long. The driver braked suddenly at a turn. The car jolted, Sarah nearly dropping the file. A black SUV shot from a narrow alley, blocking the road. In a split second, two hooded men jumped out, rushing toward her car. The driver panicked, locking doors, but rough hands smashed the window. Sarah stayed calm, cold eyes observing. She pulled her phone, hitting the preset SOS. Seconds later, police sirens wailed from afar. The SUV sped off into the rain, leaving a long crack on the glass like a knife scar. Sarah sat still, breath rapid. This was no longer a warning. This was direct threat. Next day, news broke. Blackwell VP escapes mysterious attack. Images of the cracked car window hit every channel. Olivia Pearson immediately boosted Sarah's security, but internally, whispers spread. She's dragging the company into danger. In her office, Sarah opened an envelope police found near the scene. Inside, a short note, scrawled handwriting. Stop, or next time it's not just glass breaking. Emily met her, voice shaking with anger. They're not hiding anymore, Sarah. This is war declaration. You must withdraw before it's too late. Sarah took her friend's trembling hand. Emily, if I withdraw, everything we did means nothing. They want silence because I'm touching truth. That's why I must continue. Following days, tension escalated. Sarah's phone got anonymous midnight calls, just heavy breathing. One morning, she found her apartment door pried. Nothing taken, just a dagger stabbed into the wooden table. Police investigated, found no clear traces. David Lawson met Sarah in her office, face grave. Sarah, these aren't street thugs. This is work of powerful people with money and coldness to make you an accident. He paused, eyes sharp. If you continue, prepare for the dirtiest war. Sarah silent. She recalled Nathan's eyes as he was dragged away, hateful and desperate. Then Richard Hale's faint smile in meetings, challenging. She understood. Behind the attack was a dark power network. Nathan just the first fall. Instead of faltering, Sarah escalated. She tasked Emily's team to expand probes, tracing suspicious transactions to hidden funds. Meanwhile, she secretly met independent investigative journalists, giving puzzle pieces on deeper corruption. One night, Sarah stood on the balcony, city lights blazing below. Cold wind whipped her face, but she didn't shiver. In her mind, they want fear. But what if I don't fear? What if I use this threat to show what they'll do to keep secrets? She closed eyes, seeing faces of women who'd approached her, sharing harassment, forced silence. Each story a wound. Now, she fought not just revenge. For them. Sarah opened eyes, staring into the city's deep darkness. In her gaze, no hesitation. Only fiery resolve. If darkness wanted to swallow her, she'd become a blinding light, forcing them to reveal. Manhattan's sky that night was leaden gray, thunder cracking skyscrapers like bright knives. Sarah sat in her office, desk lights spilling over the expanded probe files Emily sent. Numbers matched suspiciously, hidden transactions to an anonymous fund, looping back to a Cayman Islands shell. Sarah circled in red pen. This thread didn't lead to Nathan. He was the fallen flag. It led to Richard Hale, the CFO, and part of the intact power web. The door opened softly. Emily entered, face tense. Sarah, we have a problem, she whispered, placing an envelope on the desk. Inside, leaked emails bearing Sarah's exact digital signature, directives, funneling hidden funds to cover scandals. Sarah frowned. Forged. Emily nodded, eyes anxious. I know, but the board needs surface proof. They'll use this against you. Sarah gripped the papers, rage surging. This was Richard and Victoria's prepared strike. No need to kill with knives, just turn her into a criminal in trusted eyes. 2 days later, news exploded. Leaked emails implicate Sarah Blackwell in hidden fund. Finance channels analyzed, many sneering. No different from Nathan, just a wolf in a dress. In the office, chill enveloped. Employees avoided Sarah's eyes. Even former supporters whispered doubts. Sarah knew isolation started not from enemies, but invisible distance from surroundings. That night, she met David Lawson. The lawyer sat pensively, placing a file before her. "Sarah, I investigated. And I have to say, the leak might not just be from the board." He paused, voice low. "But from Emily." Sarah froze. Each word hammered down. David continued. "Metadata traces show the forged emails built on the exact server Emily uses. I know you trust her. But, Sarah, in Power Wars, betrayal never comes from afar. From right beside." The room fell silent. Sarah recalled Emily's trembling beside her, strengthening hand grips. But now, memories mixed with the email envelope image, brought by Emily herself, to warn or probe reaction. That night, Sarah didn't sleep. She sat alone by the window, city lights blurred in rain. In her head, a tormenting question. Emily ally or bot? Next morning, Sarah decided a test. She gave Emily fake info, a hidden transaction invented, stored only in one file, then waited. 2 days later, the info appeared. In Richard Hale's hands, leaked to media as new discovery. Sarah sat silent in office, eyes ice cold. She understood, no more proof needed. Emily, most trusted, had become the betraying link. Reason, fear, coercion, or ambition, results same. Trap now not outside, but in her ranks. When Emily entered, Sarah smiled as if nothing. "Thanks for the hard work," she said lightly. But inside, cold fire blazed. If you've chosen their side, you'll fall with them. New York nights swallowed in thick darkness. Sarah sat alone in office, only laptop glow. On it, forged emails, leaks, digital traces revealed truth. Emily, shoulder-to-shoulder ally, now a dagger in her back. Sarah didn't cry. No room for tears in this battlefield. She quietly closed the laptop, leaned back. Betrayal stung, but in pain, a thought flashed. If Emily chose them, I'll make them pay with that betrayal. Next day, Sarah appeared in Blackwell's hall, composed to chilling, board already seated. Richard Hale smiled smugly, knowing Sarah's hidden fund. News spread. Emily sat back, avoiding eyes, face tense, hiding secret. Sarah stood, opening thin file, voice clear, sharp. "In past week, accusations against me, forged emails, leaks. I investigated, and today bring proof it's all staged." Murmurs waved. Richard frowned, trying calm. Sarah nodded lightly. Hall doors opened. David Lawson entered, followed by 2 federal investigators. On big screen, Sarah played new slides, email metadata, digital traces, video of forging process from Emily's server. "The one behind this forgery," Sarah said, eyes straight at Emily, "was someone I trusted absolutely." Room hushed. Emily trembled, lips moving wordlessly. Investigators approached, hands on her shoulders. Richard jumped. "This is staged. She's fabricating to save herself." Sarah unflinching. "If fabricated, why did FBI validate evidence? And why in this recording she pressed play?" Emily's voice rang. "Richard, I transferred the info. But she won't suspect match Emily's perfectly." Room exploded. Some board members whispered shock. Few turned to Richard doubtfully. Olivia Pearson, head table, eyes narrowed like blade. Emily slumped in chair, tears flowing. Too late. Curtain pulled down. Sarah turned to Richard, cold smile. "You thought to break me with doubt, but your arrogance betrayed you. From today, I won't just protect this company from likes of Nathan. I'll root out all selling Blackwell to darkness." Olivia tapped table, voice decisive. "Internal probe expands. Anyone involved in forgery faces consequences. And you, Sarah Blackwell, from today, full authority to clean Blackwell Industries." Richard sat stunned. Smile vanished, eyes burning hate. He knew, from this moment, he'd shifted from attacker to new prey. As meeting ended, Sarah stood by window overlooking glittering city. Emily escorted away, Richard losing influence, and she, from silent wife, now power center. But in blazing light, Sarah knew darkness not gone. Other board members wouldn't idle. Next counterstrike could be crueler, she whispered, only for herself. The war has just begun. The room emptied gradually. Blackwell headquarters lights piercing night. Sarah stood by glass, viewing New York like giant map at her feet. She'd won a chess round, but knew those sitting with her today could be knife-hiding enemies tomorrow. This victory brought no peace, but reminder. Road ahead thorny, but in Sarah's eyes, no fear, only resolve of woman turning pain to strength, bruises to guiding torch. Open question. Could Sarah withstand entire power network, or become next victim in endless war? What do you think? If you were Sarah, would you continue fighting or stop for peace? Share in comments, and don't forget to follow for the next chapter. Oh God, he just betrayed me right before my eyes. Olivia Carter stood frozen in the 37th floor hallway. The ultrasound photo trembled in her hand. Just minutes ago, she was thrilled to share the joyous news that, after 3 heartbreaking miscarriages, she and Ethan Ward would finally welcome a healthy baby girl. But now, through the office's glass window, she saw her husband, the admired tech billionaire, passionately kissing Vanessa Cole, his personal assistant. That moment didn't just crush Olivia's heart. It sparked a medical tragedy. Violent contractions surged, threatening the lives of both mother and child. And what Olivia didn't yet know, Vanessa wasn't just a casual Tuesday. She was a calculated predator. Could Olivia protect her baby from this deadly game? A golden candle flickered in the marble-tiled kitchen, casting shimmering light across the high ceiling. Olivia Carter twirled in the spacious room. Her emerald green maternity dress hugged her 7-month pregnant belly. In her hand was an ultrasound image, the faint outline of a tiny face glowing like a miracle. After 3 years of trying, 3 tear-filled miscarriages, and countless painful hormone injections, she and Ethan Ward could finally call a life their own, a healthy baby girl, awaiting her first cry. She slipped the ultrasound into a white envelope, placing it at the center of the dining table, set as if tonight were an anniversary. Crystal glasses gleamed, classic Italian dishware sparkled. Chopsticks from their first-year honeymoon in China sat neatly arranged. Every detail Olivia orchestrated was meticulously calculated. Braised beef from Chateau Rohan warmed in a thermal container. Aged red wine stood ready. Dim golden lighting bathed the 40th floor Park Avenue penthouse in a dreamlike glow. Olivia's heart raced with anticipation. In just a few hours, Ethan would walk in after his long flight from Tokyo. She pictured him opening the envelope, eyes wide with tears, pulling her into his arms. It's a girl, Ethan, our daughter. Just imagining that moment made her nose sting with emotion. Through the wide-open glass door, New York sparkled below. Cars flowed like a moving galaxy. This city had witnessed Ethan build an empire, from a dreamy college student to the CEO of a billion-dollar tech conglomerate. Olivia, once a promising marketing director, had set aside her career to support her husband, nurturing the hope that one day they'd have a family. Today, it seemed all her sacrifices were rewarded. But beneath the polished surface, faint cracks were forming. Lately, Ethan came home late. His business trips stretched longer. His eyes grew distant during their rare conversations. When Olivia mentioned the nursery or the new crib, he offered only a perfunctory smile, as if it were a duty rather than joy. Olivia brushed off her unease, telling herself that the pressure of running a massive corporation could exhaust anyone. Once the baby arrived, things would get better, wouldn't they? A phone chime interrupted her thoughts. Olivia glanced at the screen. Vanessa Cole, Ethan's 6-year-old assistant. The message read, "Mr. Ward asked me to inform you. He needs to stop by the office for a few hours to handle an urgent matter from Tokyo. He'll be home around 8 p.m. Olivia paused. Ethan always called her directly when plans changed. Why was Vanessa relaying the message today? She set the phone down, staring at the sparkling penthouse she'd spent all afternoon preparing. A wave of disappointment washed over her, but the ultrasound in the envelope urged her on. This news was too important to wait. Instead of waiting for Ethan, Olivia decided to bring the gift to his office. She smiled to herself, convincing herself that this surprise would be even better. An exhausted Ethan, fresh off a flight, greeted by his wife at his workplace with the news of their daughter. a spark to lift both their spirits. 30 minutes later, a car dropped Olivia at the lobby of Ward Global Tower. The marble foyer gleamed. Lights reflected off her flat shoes. The security guard nodded respectfully. "Mrs. Ward, great to see you again. Mr. Ward is in the executive suite, corner office, as usual." Olivia smiled back, stepping into the elevator. Her heart pounded with excitement and nerves. As the doors opened on the 37th floor, a quiet hallway stretched before her, filled only with the hum of air conditioning and the distant echo of the city. She adjusted her dress, gripped the insulated bag with their dinner, and walked toward the glass door where office lights spilled out. Inside, she saw Ethan's silhouette, but one step closer, and Olivia would realize the moment she'd been waiting for would never be as she imagined. White light poured from the corner office, glaring brightly in the quiet executive floor. Olivia Carter raised a trembling hand to the transparent glass door. Inside, Ethan Ward, her husband, the man she trusted, completely stood by a wide mahogany desk, but he wasn't alone. Vanessa Cole, his 6-year-old assistant, perched on the desk's edge. Her red dress clung to her body, its hem hiked up to reveal long legs. Ethan leaned down, hands cupping her face, his lips pressed fiercely against hers, as if the world outside ceased to exist. No hesitation, no concealment, it was the kiss of two people who'd crossed boundaries long ago. Time stopped. The envelope with the ultrasound slipped from Olivia's fingers, hitting the marble floor with a dry thud. But inside the office, Ethan didn't hear. It was Vanessa who opened her eyes first. Her cold blue gaze locked onto Olivia through the glass. Instead of flinching or showing shame, her lips curled into a smug, victorious smile. Then she kissed Ethan harder, as if deliberately searing the image into Olivia's memory. Olivia's body shook uncontrollably. Her belly tightened, as if an invisible hand squeezed from within. A sharp pain stabbed through her lower back, spreading to her chest. She collapsed to her knees, clutching her rounded belly. Her breaths came in gasps. A warm, wet sensation spread between her legs, a sign of early contractions. "No, it can't be," Olivia whispered. Her voice was nearly swallowed by the thick air around her. The office door swung open. Ethan appeared, his face paling as he saw Olivia slumped against the wall. Vanessa followed, calmly smoothing her dress, her lipstick untouched, as if the kiss were just a rehearsal. "Olivia? What's wrong?" Ethan rushed to her, but Olivia could only look at him with tear-filled eyes. The betrayal pierced her heart more fiercely than the wrenching pain in her belly. A security guard, hearing the commotion, ran over. Within minutes, an ambulance sped through New York's night. Olivia lay on a stretcher, hands clutching her belly, breathing raggedly. The siren's wail echoed like an alarm for the life-or-death battle drawing near. Ethan sat in the back, his voice cracking as he answered the paramedics. He described the contractions, her high blood pressure, the weeks of pregnancy. But Olivia's gaze remained fixed on the ambulance ceiling, vacant. The image of Ethan and Vanessa in the office looped endlessly in her mind, like a film stuck on repeat. At Manhattan General Hospital, neon lights illuminated Olivia's pale face. Doctors rushed in, monitoring straps wrapped around her belly. The baby's heartbeat pulsed rapidly. A fleeting relief came when the heartbeat steadied, but the pain didn't ease. Outside in the hallway, Ethan paced, his tie hung loose, his hair disheveled. He called partners repeatedly, but no one answered. Vanessa stood near the reception desk, her red dress stark against the sterile space. She spoke on the phone, her voice cold and loud enough for a nearby nurse to hear. "His wife. She's having some pregnancy issues. Probably just overreacting for attention." A few staff exchanged glances, their eyes mixing shock and disdain. No one had ever heard someone speak so callously about a critical patient. In the emergency room, Dr. Samuel Reed, Olivia's uncle and the department head, appeared. He leaned over, his sharp eyes narrowing as he saw Olivia writhing on the bed, her belly tense, her blood pressure spiking. "Severe preeclampsia," he concluded swiftly. His voice was low and urgent. "Absolute quiet is critical. Any more stress could trigger early labor or worse." Outside, Vanessa's high heels clicked closer, echoing down the hall. The beep-beep of the monitor pulsed rapidly, as if the tiny heart inside Olivia Carter was knocking for help. Cold sweat dripped down her forehead, her dry lips whispered soundlessly. Pain gripped her lower abdomen, each wave like a twisting knife. Memories of her 3 past miscarriages flooded back cold hospital rooms, doctors' pitying looks, the gut-wrenching emptiness as her belly flattened. Olivia couldn't endure another loss. Not when her daughter was this close. Dr. Samuel Reed entered, his white coat billowing, his stern face betraying a flicker of tension. He checked her blood pressure. The screen flashed a red 190/110. Severe preeclampsia, dangerous for both mother and baby. He ordered the nurses to prepare antihypertensive drugs and attach a continuous fetal heart monitor. Olivia gripped the bedsheet. Her pleading eyes met her uncle's. "Uncle Sam, don't let her leave me." Her voice trembled, nearly breaking. Samuel placed a hand on her shoulder. His tone was steady but firm. "We'll do everything to keep you both safe. But Olivia, you must stay calm. Stress is the worst enemy right now." In the hallway, Ethan Ward's silhouette passed the glass. His hair was a mess, his face heavy with regret. He paced like a caged animal, helpless before the scene inside. But beside him, Vanessa Cole appeared, her red heels clicking calmly on the tile. Vanessa leaned toward the reception desk. Her voice was clear but cloyingly sweet. "You know, Olivia tends to overdramatize every little stress, and she blows it out of proportion. I'm sure the doctors will see that." A young nurse nearby tightened her grip on a clipboard. Her eyes flashed with anger. But Vanessa smiled, as if recounting a trivial story, unbothered by the fact that a woman fought for her life just beyond the door. Inside the room, Olivia bit her lip until it bled. The contractions grew fiercer, her belly hardened like stone. Each pang was a reminder. Her body was reacting to the emotional shock. And it was Vanessa's triumphant smile through the glass that planted a deep fear in Olivia that this woman didn't just want Ethan's love. She wanted to steal everything. Dr. Reed glanced through the door, spotting Vanessa approaching, her red lips murmuring something to Ethan. He turned to a nurse. "Lock the door. No one but immediate family is allowed in. That's an order." The door shut, shielding Olivia from the threat outside. But in her mind, Vanessa's image lingered, her words cut like knives. Olivia tried to breathe deeply, placing a hand on her belly, feeling her daughter's faint kick. The baby was reacting to the stress. Her heart rate surged. "My girl, stay with me. Please don't leave me." A nurse injected antihypertensive medication. The cool liquid eased her racing pulse. The monitor's rhythm steadied slightly, but the danger wasn't over. "Doctor." Reed's brow remained furrowed. He knew one more spark of stress could double the crisis. Outside, Ethan buried his head in his hands, whispering like a confession. He'd betrayed his wife at her most vulnerable, and now the cost might be the lives of both mother and child. But before he could say more, Vanessa's heels clicked again, each step confident, as if she owned the hospital corridor. The white light in the emergency room reflected off Olivia Carter's pale face. Monitoring wires snaked across her pregnant belly, emitting a fragile but steady beep beep. "Doctor." Samuel Reed stood at the bed's foot, eyes locked on the blood pressure reading, which had dropped slightly from 190 to 170. Though there were signs of stabilization, he knew one small trigger could unravel everything. "Severe preeclampsia, high risk," he told the nurses. His voice was steady and authoritative. "We must keep her blood pressure as low as possible. Avoid all stress factors, all of them." As if to defy that order, the sound of high heels echoed in the hallway. Click, click, each step brimming with confidence. The door cracked open, and Vanessa Cole stepped in, as if this weren't a hospital but a boardroom she was used to commanding. Her red dress blazed, her dark wavy hair was flawless, her eyes gleamed with a chilling calm. Olivia shuddered. Her body reacted instantly. The blood pressure monitor spiked. Samuel noticed immediately, his voice cut like ice. "You're not allowed here. This is an emergency room. Immediate family only." Vanessa tilted her head, a thin smile spreading. "I'm not a stranger. I'm Ethan's close friend. I was with him when this happened." Her voice was light as a breeze, but each word landed like a blade. Ethan stood behind her, his face torn. He didn't interrupt, didn't step forward to stop her. He just stood silent. That silence made Olivia feel abandoned on her own battlefield of life and death. Vanessa took another step. Olivia often overreacts. The doctors should know this to avoid making rash decisions. Her smile lingered on. Overreacts. As if this were all a drama Olivia staged. On the monitor, the fetal heart rate surged. Olivia gripped the bedsheet. Her breathing grew ragged. Her eyes squeezed shut, trying to block the sight before her. Samuel raised a hand to stop Vanessa. His voice was low but carried the authority of a seasoned chief. Miss Cole, this isn't a boardroom. This is a place to save lives. Your presence is harming the patient. Leave now. But Vanessa didn't retreat. She leaned toward Ethan, her voice soft but loud enough for Olivia to hear. You can't let them push me out. I have a right to be here. I understand you better than anyone. Those words pierced Olivia like a poisoned needle. Another contraction hit, so intense it stole her breath. Her chest heaved, tears streamed down her temples. In that moment, Olivia understood. Vanessa didn't just want her husband. She wanted to shatter her spirit, to strip away her last shred of safety. Samuel signaled the nurses. 2 security guards were called. Their shadows loomed as they entered. Escort her out, Samuel ordered firmly. Vanessa gave a faint laugh, turning before being led away. Olivia, don't stress too much. It's not good for the baby. A cold jab, then her heels faded into the distance. The room's air remained thick. Olivia lay there, heart pounding, breath shallow, eyes fixed on the ceiling as if clinging to a single point to keep from breaking. Ethan stepped back, his face ashen. He opened his mouth, but Samuel raised a hand, his gaze icy. Not a word right now. She needs silence, not excuses. The hospital's white light cast a harsh glow on Olivia Carter's pale face. The steady beep of the fetal monitor was a fragile thread of hope. She closed her eyes, but Vanessa's triumphant smile haunted her, etched like a burning scar in her mind. In the hallway, hurried footsteps echoed. Ethan Ward appeared. His suit was crumpled, tie loose, face etched with despair. He entered the room, eyes on his wife, but Olivia turned away, her hand still clutching the bedsheet. The air grew heavy, filled only with the hum of machines and her ragged breaths. Dr. Samuel Reed watched the scene, his eyes darkened. He'd handled thousands of emergencies, but never one where a loved one was the cause of a patient's brink. He stepped forward, his voice was hoarse but sharp. Ethan, if you want to stay, be silent. Olivia needs absolute calm. One wrong word could kill both mother and child. Ethan nodded, stepping back, but inside, a storm of guilt raged. There was no escape. Images flooded his mind. The Singapore trip, a lavish bar, late nights lost in temptation, and Vanessa, his ambitious assistant with sharp eyes that knew how to exploit every weakness. He'd fallen in a moment when Olivia was recovering from a miscarriage. Instead of standing by his wife, he sought another's arms, justifying it as an escape. But now, seeing Olivia motionless, her belly convulsing, he faced the truth. Every escape was a death sentence for his family. Olivia opened her eyes, staring straight at him. Her red-rimmed eyes burned like a blade. How long? Her voice was hoarse, each word a cut. Ethan froze. The silence stretched, heavy enough to make the monitor's beeps painful. Finally, he took a deep breath, confessing, 3 months. It started in Singapore, while you were still in a hospital bed. Olivia shut her eyes. Tears spilled. The pain in her belly surged, as if reacting to his words. She doubled over, clutching her stomach, as the monitor flashed warnings. Doctor. Reed rushed forward, signaling for more medication. What have you done, Ethan? Samuel growled, injecting a drug while checking the fetal heart rate. My niece carried this child after 3 losses. And you chose that moment to betray her? Ethan choked, unable to argue. He looked at Olivia, saw her lips trembling, whispering faintly. You chose her, while I was losing our child. That truth cut deeper than any physical pain. Olivia recalled the endless treatment days, the tears, the prayers to hold on to a tiny life, and while she fought, her husband gave his trust and body to another. The room felt suffocating. Ethan sat by the bed, reaching for her hand, but Olivia yanked it back. Her eyes brimmed with contempt and pain. Don't touch me. Samuel placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. His voice was steel. Understand this. Stress is a killer. If Olivia loses this baby, her blood will be on your hands first. Outside, Vanessa reappeared, refusing to be sidelined. Her heels clicked on the tile, deliberate and provocative. A nurse blocked her, but Vanessa only smirked, murmuring into her phone. Ethan glanced out. Seeing her red silhouette, his heart sank further. He knew Vanessa wouldn't stop. Worse, she held secrets he'd foolishly shared, complaints about his marriage, vague plans for the future. If she spoke, Olivia would know everything. In the room, Olivia felt it clearly. The pain wasn't just physical, it was the betrayal tearing her heart apart. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling her daughter's faint kick. The baby was still fighting, even if her father had let go. Tears fell, Olivia whispered, barely audible. "My girl, I won't let anyone take you from me. Not Vanessa, not even your father." Samuel watched, his heart aching. He knew Olivia wasn't just battling a medical condition, but a soul-crushing pain that could destroy her faster than any complication. Ethan stood rooted, watching the woman who was once his world now look at him like a stranger. In that moment, he understood. Forgiveness might never come. But more pressing was whether he'd have a chance to save the lives of his wife and daughter. The hospital hallway, usually quiet, echoed with Vanessa Cole's deliberate high heels. She walked slowly, as if commanding the battlefield, ignoring the nurses' and guards' sharp glares. Her phone glowed, her fingers moved, preparing an undeniable proof. Olivia Carter's hospital room door was ajar. Inside, the monitor's light blinked with each fragile beat, reflecting off her pale face as she battled intense contractions. Ethan Ward slumped in a chair, hands clasped tightly. Dr. Samuel Reed reviewed freshly printed test results. At that moment, the door swung open. Vanessa entered. Her sweet perfume flooded the already stifling room. "Ethan," she called, her voice saccharine yet mocking. "You're not going to let me tell the truth, are you? Olivia deserves to hear it from you, or from me." Olivia turned, her red eyes flashing with alertness. The fetal monitor spiked. Its beep beep raced. Dr. Reed stepped forward. His voice was a blade. "You're not allowed here. Get out now." Vanessa's smile was mocking. Her gaze slid from the doctor to Olivia. "Oh, but the patient needs to know what her husband's been planning. It'd be crueler to let her live in delusion." Ethan stood, voice trembling. "Vanessa, stop. This isn't the time." But Vanessa didn't flinch. She raised her phone, swiping to a receipt. The screen glowed. $43,000. "Here," she said, her tone as calm as a financial report. "The engagement ring he bought me, just days ago. The same day Olivia was at the doctor for pregnancy complications." The air froze. Olivia felt her heart stop for a moment. A contraction hit so hard she let out a choked groan. "You bought a ring?" Olivia's voice shattered, barely a breath. Ethan stammered, stepping toward the bed. "It's not like that. I just—" "Shut up!" Olivia screamed, the sound tearing from her lungs. Tears poured. Her trembling hands clutched the bedsheet. The monitor blared, the fetal heart rate erratic. Dr. Reed rushed in, signaling for emergency medication. "One more word causing stress, and I'll have security remove you both," he roared, his eyes blazed. But Vanessa pressed on, her voice steady, as if scripted. "Olivia, you think you can hold on to this family?" "Ethan told me everything, the lack of intimacy, the failed attempts at children, the hospital obsession. He's tired of you. We planned a future, a new apartment in Soho, a quiet wedding, and—" Vanessa paused, her lips curving, ready to deliver the fatal blow. "I'm pregnant. 11 weeks. Ethan's child." The room erupted. The monitor screamed with rapid beeps. Olivia jolted, eyes wide, breaths broken. Her body shook violently. "No, it's impossible," Ethan gasped, his face bloodless. "We always—" Vanessa cut him off, her voice icy. "You're too naive, Ethan. Birth control isn't foolproof." Olivia let out a choked sob, her body convulsing. Her belly tightened, her hands clutched it. A scream tore from her throat. "No." Dr. Reed barked orders. "Get lorazepam. Prep the OR now. Seizures are starting." Staff flooded in. Emergency lights flashed. Chaos erupted, where life and death hung by a thread. Ethan stepped back, panicked, watching his wife writhe, foam at her mouth. His daughter's heartbeat raced, faint, and beside him, Vanessa stood, eyes cold, showing no remorse. In that instant, Ethan realized she never loved him. It was all a ruthless game, and he'd given her the weapon to destroy his wife and child. Security stormed in, restraining Vanessa, dragging her out. But her lips still held a venomous smile, as if she knew she'd sown enough pain to ruin everything. The red alarm wailed in the emergency room. Flashing lights bathed Olivia Carter's pale face. Her body convulsed, foam at her mouth, eyes rolled back. The fetal monitor screamed. The tiny heartbeat wavered dangerously. "Move her to the OR now. Preeclampsia with seizures. No time left." Dr. Samuel Reed's voice thundered. Staff pushed the bed. Wheels screeched on glossy tiles. Ethan Ward stood frozen outside, eyes locked on the scene. His hands shook. His chest burned as if stabbed. He wanted to rush in, but knew he was the one who'd brought his wife and daughter to this edge. Behind him, Vanessa Cole was held by 2 guards. Her face kept its cold smile. As she passed Ethan, she leaned close, whispering, "Even if she survives, she'll never forgive you. I'm the only one who truly understands you." Ethan reeled, wanting to scream, but his throat locked. He looked through the glass, seeing Olivia's silhouette wheeled into surgery, surrounded by blinding white light. Olivia lay on the operating table, wires crisscrossing her body. Her breaths were shallow, her body trembled. Dr. Reed and the OB team, led by Dr. Sarah Wilson, dove into action, eyes laser-focused. "Blood pressure 200/120, a nurse shouted. "Magnesium sulfate now," Reed replied, hands on his niece's belly, feeling the tense contractions. Sarah glanced at the monitor, her face taut. 31 weeks. We need to deliver now. Any delay, and we lose both." The scalpel gleamed under the lights. A swift cut, blood flowed. The sound of suction, metal tools clanking. The room froze, filled only with the faint echo of the baby's heartbeat, each beat a plea. Olivia, in a haze, had tears streaming. In her subconscious, her lips moved. "My girl, stay with me." Ethan collapsed into a chair, his knees shook. Tyler Brooks, his business partner and best friend, arrived, breathless from Ethan's frantic call. "What the hell happened?" Tyler nearly shouted. Ethan clutched his head, voice choked. I betrayed Olivia. With Vanessa. She said things that almost killed Olivia. And now, my daughter." Tyler stared, face blazing with fury. "You bought an engagement ring for your mistress while your wife struggled with pregnancy? Ethan, what have you become?" Ethan didn't answer, head bowed, eyes blurred with tears. He heard the scalpel's clinks beyond the glass, and for the first time, he prayed not for his career, not for success, but for his wife and daughter to survive. The monitor screeched, the fetal heart rate plummeted. The team froze for a split second. Dr. Wilson shouted, "Clamp the vessels, suction, prep delivery tools." A deadly silence fell. Then a tiny cry broke through, weak, trembling, but alive. "Baby's out. 1.5 kilos. Oxygen now. Prep the NICU incubator," a doctor called. Olivia heard nothing. Her body still twitched. Her blood pressure wavered. Samuel held her hand, voice hoarse. "Olivia, stay with us. For her. For yourself." The door burst open. A nurse rushed out with a small incubator. Inside a tiny red baby, trembling with each breath. Ethan stood, tears welling. He pressed a hand to the glass, whispering, "My daughter, Daddy's here." But then Dr. Reed appeared, face grim. "We stabilized the baby, but Olivia's still critical. Blood pressure won't drop. Risk of brain hemorrhage." Ethan staggered, chest pounded. He looked through the glass, seeing Olivia motionless on the table, doctors working frantically around her. In her deep haze, Olivia stood in a dark room. Before her were 2 doors, one radiant, one dim. From the bright one, a baby's cry echoed, faint but clear. She stepped slowly toward it, but behind her, Vanessa's voice rang cold, mocking. "He chose me. You're just his past." Olivia paused, heart aching, but the cry pulled her back. She touched her empty belly, tears fell. "No, my daughter needs me. I have to go back." "Heart rate's back. Blood pressure's dropping," a nurse shouted. The team exhaled, resuming hemorrhage control. Samuel wiped sweat, gripping Olivia's hand, whispering, "Fight. My girl. Don't let anyone take everything from you. Ethan sat, tears streaming. Tyler gripped his shoulder. If Olivia and the baby survive, what will you do? Keep listening to Vanessa, or face the consequences? Ethan didn't answer. A tidal wave roared inside. Regret, fear, and the truth that his mistress had nearly killed his family. And at the hallway's end, in the shadows, Vanessa watched, her cold eyes unrelenting, as if the war had just begun. The recovery room, bathed in soft golden light, was silent save for the steady beep, beep of the heart monitor. Olivia Carter lay still, tubes in her arm, her face gaunt after the fight for life. The rhythmic beeps became a strange lullaby, pulling her from a long haze. Her heavy eyelids flickered, then slowly opened. The hospital ceiling came into focus, blurred by the light. Olivia took a deep breath. Her hand instinctively touched her belly, now empty. Panic surged. She recalled the faint cry, the glaring lights, Uncle Sam's urgent voice in the chaos. Olivia jolted upright, but a searing pain at her incision made her gasp, doubling over. "Easy, Olivia." Dr. Samuel Reed's calm voice anchored her. He stepped forward, hand on her shoulder, gently pressing her back down. "The baby's fine. She's in the NICU incubator. She's breathing. Heart stable. Now you need to focus on yourself." Tears spilled from Olivia, a mix of relief and anguish. She whispered shakily, She really survived?" Samuel nodded, his eyes glinting with fatigue after hours of strain. "She's a fighter, just like her mother." But the relief was fleeting. The door creaked open, and Ethan Ward stepped in. His eyes were bloodshot from sleeplessness, his face hollow, hands clenched like a guilty man. Olivia looked at her husband. Her weary eyes flared with cold fire. The monitor's heart rate spiked. Samuel frowned instantly. No stressing her further. Ethan dropped to his knees by the bed. His voice trembled. "I'm sorry, Olivia. I was wrong. Unforgivably wrong. But I swear, it's over with Vanessa." Olivia gave a bitter laugh, the sound raw. "Over? After she stood right here, telling me about the ring you bought, the apartment you picked, the child you planted in her?" Her words landed like blows. Ethan shrank, eyes flooded with guilt. "No, Olivia. The pregnancy was a lie. I didn't know. I never." Olivia cut him off, voice rising, shaking. "And the ring, Ethan? $43,000 to replace your wife while I fought for our daughter's life? Was that a lie too?" Ethan choked, unable to deny, unable to explain. The raw truth lay bare under the hospital's light. Olivia stared at him, tears falling not just from pain but from a stark realization. Trust was dead. Dr. Reed stepped between them. "Enough. Olivia can't handle more stress. Ethan, if you want redemption, let her rest." Ethan stood, heart shattered. As he turned to leave, Olivia's hoarse voice followed. "You divorced me long ago, Ethan. I was just too blind to see." The door closed, leaving Olivia in a silent storm. She turned her face, tears soaking the pillow, but deep inside, a resolve grew. If she once fought to save her family, now she'd fight to save herself and her daughter. Vanessa Cole sat in the waiting area, despite security's warnings. Her red dress stood out in the sterile white, her legs crossed, phone glowing with unsent messages. A nurse passed, eyes wary. Vanessa only smirked, whispering to herself, "Olivia may survive, but her family won't." Her fingers danced on the screen, preparing a string of messages not for Ethan, but for the press, business rivals, anyone who could turn this scandal into a fire to burn Caldwell Enterprises. Olivia glanced out the window. The city glowed distantly, its lights like cold stars. In her heart, pain bled, but a spark flared. Her daughter was breathing, alive, and Olivia knew, though her marriage crumbled and love betrayed, she had one reason to rise again. Dawn broke over Manhattan, and with it, the true storm hit Caldwell Enterprises. Vanessa Cole hadn't slept. In her rented apartment near Central Park, her face glowed coldly under the laptop's light. Dozens of photos, documents, and months of saved messages were now a perfect, guilty dossier. She knew the moment had come, the final blow to destroy Ethan Ward's life. One click, and his secrets would no longer be whispers behind office doors but a bloody feast for the press and public. Vanessa leaned back, raising a glass of red wine, her lips curling coldly. On the screen, an email subject glowed. Tech billionaire Ethan Ward. Affair. Betrayal of pregnant wife. Engagement ring for young assistant. She hit send. Instantly, emails with photos of Ethan kissing her in the office, a $43,000 Tiffany receipt, and messages hinting at a new future flew to the New York Post, Daily Mail, tech blogs, and Caldwell's rivals. By 8 a.m., Ethan was jolted awake by relentless phone rings. Exhausted from a night in the hospital waiting for Olivia's stabilization, he hadn't slept when notifications dragged him back to reality. His screen flooded, missed calls, urgent PR emails, and a text from Tyler Brooks, his partner and best friend. Before he could respond, the living room TV blared news. He froze. On the large screen, a sharp image of him kissing Vanessa, shot through the office glass, filled the frame. Red text scrolled. Ward scandal. Red-dressed mistress and abandoned pregnant wife. The anchor's voice raced. Insider sources reveal Ethan Ward, founder of Caldwell Enterprises, had a months-long affair with assistant Vanessa Cole. Documents show Ward bought a $43,000 engagement ring for Cole, while his wife, Olivia Carter, 7 months pregnant, underwent emergency surgery for complications. Ethan's limbs went numb. He remembered Olivia seeing him with Vanessa through the glass, her shattered face, and now the world saw it too. No denial, no privacy left. In the hospital room, Olivia couldn't escape. A young nurse, on break, accidentally opened her phone in Olivia's view. Olivia saw every image, every word. Her heart felt crushed. If Ethan's betrayal was once a private wound, now it was torn open for millions to see. Humiliation, rage, and despair swirled into a storm in her chest. She didn't cry or scream. She turned to the wall, letting tears fall silently. Dr. Samuel Reed entered, catching Olivia staring at the phone, and snapped at the nurse to leave. He leaned down, voice gentle but firm. "Olivia, you don't need to see this." But Olivia shook her head, a bitter smile flickering. "The world's seen it, Uncle Sam. Why shouldn't I?" Meanwhile, Caldwell Enterprises headquarters was chaos. The board called an emergency meeting. Every screen showed the scandal. Shares dropped 17% in hours. Investors panicked. Reporters swarmed the building. Tyler Brooks slammed the table. "Ethan, do you realize what you've done? We're negotiating international deals, and you've turned the company into a joke. Your personal mess is a bomb on our reputation." Ethan sat silent, head bowed, knowing his friend was right. Vanessa didn't just want to ruin his marriage, she wanted to sink the empire he'd built over a decade. Vanessa, meanwhile, shone on TV. In her red dress, her eyes feigned vulnerability. "I never wanted this to go public." Her voice trembled before cameras. "Ethan promised to leave his unhappy marriage for me. I just wanted to be acknowledged." Tears rolled down her perfectly made-up cheeks, convincing the public she was the victim. Hashtags number Red Mistress and number Ward scandal topped social media. Vanessa had flipped the narrative, from a ruthless hospital figure to a wronged woman in love. In the hospital, Olivia watched Vanessa's performance on the wall-mounted TV. Each word was a dagger in her unhealed wound. Olivia clenched her fists, eyes blazing. "She nearly killed my daughter, and now dares to play the victim." Samuel touched her shoulder, saying softly, "Olivia, don't let her take more of your strength. Emma needs you strong." Olivia took a deep breath, touching her belly where her daughter still breathed. Amid despair, a new resolve ignited. Though her marriage was broken, she'd stand firm to protect Emma. That afternoon, Ethan arrived at the hospital. He stood at the door, face haggard. "We need to talk," he murmured. Olivia turned, her eyes ice cold. "Talk for what? To explain you only betrayed me in secret, not for the world to know." Ethan choked, throat dry. He wanted to say Vanessa had trapped him, that he was fooled, that he still loved Olivia. But before her eyes, filled with pain and contempt, his excuses were worthless. Samuel stepped forward, voice firm. "Ethan, leave now. Olivia needs peace, not another nightmare." Ethan bowed his head, leaving silently. The door closed. Olivia exhaled, as if severing the last tie to her husband. Night fell. The hospital room was quiet, save for the steady monitor beeps. Olivia lay, eyes fixed on the ceiling. In her mind, Vanessa's voice echoed, each word a scar. "He chose me. He bought a ring for me. He wanted a family with me. But this time, Olivia didn't crumble. She faced the cold truth. Love was dead, the marriage gone, but Emma remained. And for her daughter, she'd let no one, neither Vanessa nor Ethan, destroy more. Across the city, Vanessa raised a glass to her victory. But she wasn't done. In her hand was her ace, internal Caldwell Enterprises documents she'd secretly copied. With them, she could turn a love scandal into a full-blown crisis, toppling not just Ethan's family but his billion-dollar empire. Manhattan glowed that night, its lights fueled by media frenzy around Caldwell Enterprises. Reporters crowded, cameras flashed, eager for a glimpse of Ethan Ward, the center of the year's biggest scandal. But while the press thought they'd seen it all, Vanessa Cole held a card no one expected. In her luxury apartment, paid for with Ethan's credit card, Vanessa sat at a desk, laptop open. On the screen were files stamped "Confidential" from Caldwell Enterprises, Singapore expansion plans, a European merger, next quarter's profit forecasts. These should never have left the company's servers, yet they were in Vanessa's hands, arranged like sharp knives ready to strike. She recorded a voice message, her tone soft but venomous. "Ethan, if you don't want the world to know Caldwell hid financial flaws in the Singapore projects on the brink of collapse, you know what to do. I don't want money. I want status. Divorce Olivia, announce our engagement, or I'll send everything to the SEC and the papers waiting." One click. The recording went straight to Ethan's phone. In the hospital, Ethan sat alone in a dim waiting room. He'd lost everything: public image, Olivia's trust, even the right to enter her room. Vanessa's message froze his blood. As he listened, his hands went limp. She didn't just want to destroy his marriage. She held power to crush Caldwell Enterprises, dragging thousands of employees and billions in market value with it. He called Tyler Brooks. Minutes later, Tyler arrived, still in a crumpled suit after a day battling the press. Ethan handed him the phone. Tyler listened, eyes darkening. "You let her access sensitive data?" Tyler growled, knuckles white. "Do you know what this means? This isn't just a personal scandal. It's corporate espionage. If this leaks, we face federal investigation. Investors pull out, contracts collapse, shares plummet. Caldwell dies in a week." Ethan clutched his head, voice raw. "I didn't know how she got it. Maybe those nights in the office. I let her use my computer. Tyler, I've ruined everything." Tyler offered no comfort. He opened his laptop, logging into the company's security system. "We need damage control. I'm calling the legal team now. But Ethan, brace yourself if this blows up. Not just Vanessa, but you could face prison for security negligence." Outside, Vanessa moved further. She sent an anonymous email with a sliver of the documents to a prominent tech blogger. Hours later, a post emerged. "Caldwell Enterprises hiding million-dollar flaws in Singapore project." It spread like wildfire. News outlets began questioning if the affair was just the tip of a deeper crisis. In her room, Olivia caught the new broadcast from the hallway TV. Ethan's face appeared, not as a cheating husband, but a CEO suspected of financial manipulation. She closed her eyes, a strange feeling spreading. Everything Ethan built valued above family, above her, was crumbling. Yet, instead of satisfaction, she felt only emptiness. Dr. Samuel Reed entered, setting down a medical report. He saw Olivia fixated on the TV, her eyes no longer wet but devoid of light. "Don't sink into it," he said softly. "All you need to think about is Emma. Companies, money, fame, they can fall. But Emma needs a mother who's whole." Olivia nodded, but deep down, she knew worse was coming. If Ethan got tangled in legal battles, if Caldwell collapsed, Emma's financial future would falter. She wouldn't allow that. Olivia vowed, even if Ethan fell, she'd find a way to protect her daughter. That evening, Vanessa struck again. In a red dress, she entered a high-end bar where reporters gathered. She smiled, whispering tidbits about Ethan, his plans to leave his wife, his secret talks about million-dollar deals. Each story was kindling, fueling a blaze the press craved. She was no longer a secret mistress, she was the source, the one holding the knife over Ethan's head. Tyler got word from the lawyers. The SEC opened a preliminary file on Caldwell. Ethan reeled. He hadn't resolved the personal scandal, and now he faced the government. "God, I'll lose everything," he muttered. Tyler cut in, voice sharp. You haven't lost it all yet, but if we don't act, Vanessa will destroy us. I'll contact the FBI about espionage charges. But Ethan, understand, she's not just your ex-mistress. She's the enemy. Across the city, Vanessa sipped wine, eyes gleaming in the dark. Her phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. What more details for the next post? I can provide all Singapore data. Vanessa smirked. The game had just begun, and she held all the cards. Noonlight flooded the hospital room, but Olivia Carter felt like she stood in darkness. A week since the scandal broke, she'd felt every emotion: pain, rage, humiliation. But now, before the glass crib where Emma, her daughter, breathed steadily, Olivia knew pain wasn't the priority. Protecting her daughter was. Olivia sat up, clutching a thin blanket, her eyes resolute. Dr. Samuel Reed noticed the shift as he entered. "Ready to fight?" he asked, half smiling, half worried. "Not for me," Olivia replied, voice firm. "For Emma. She won't grow up in a family manipulated by someone like Vanessa, and she won't depend on a man who can betray at any moment." Samuel nodded. He'd raised Olivia after her father's death, and now he saw her wield a mother's strength for the first time. Meanwhile, at Caldwell Enterprises' top floor, Ethan Ward sat in a sealed boardroom with Tyler Brooks and lawyers. A thick dossier on corporate espionage charges lay on the table. Tyler pointed at it. "Vanessa crossed the line. We have proof she accessed restricted data. But Ethan, don't forget your negligence will be scrutinized. You could be held complicit." Ethan buried his face in his hands. Months ago, he was the model young CEO. Now, he was a man at risk of losing his wife, daughter, and freedom. "I just want to salvage something," he whispered. Tyler leaned in, eyes cold. "Then listen. We'll turn the tables. Instead of denying guilt, we cooperate with authorities, prove Vanessa's manipulation. But you must be honest with the law, and with Olivia." Ethan swallowed, recalling Olivia's shattered look in the hospital. He knew any chance at redemption lay not in the company but in being a decent father to Emma. That afternoon, Olivia received a strange envelope. Inside was a printed article, with a handwritten note. "The truth needs to come from you. Otherwise, the story will always be mine. V." Olivia gripped the paper, hands trembling. Vanessa didn't just want Ethan. She wanted to destroy Olivia, to brand her a loser in the public's eyes. But this time, Olivia didn't break. She looked at Emma in her crib, then picked up the phone, calling the one person she could trust, her mother, Claire Brennan, a retired family court judge. "Are you ready?" Claire asked, voice steady as steel. "I'm ready to tell the truth, not to save Ethan, but to protect Emma from this darkness." The next day, Olivia sat in a major network studio, cameras aimed at her pale but fiercely bright face. The host asked, "Olivia, what do you want to share with the public after all this?" Olivia took a deep breath, then spoke slowly. "I'm not here to talk about my husband's betrayal. I'm here to talk about my daughter's survival. While I fought for life on the operating table, a woman deliberately inflicted pain to threaten both mother and child. That's not love. That's mental abuse. And I won't stay silent." The studio fell silent. For the first time, Olivia wasn't the betrayed wife, but a survivor testifying. #number Stand With Olivia surged, countering Vanessa's Victim of Love campaign. In a corner of the city, Vanessa watched the interview. Her face twisted briefly. Olivia had stolen her crafted spotlight. Rage flared, and she grabbed her phone, ordering a mole reporter. "Release all the Singapore data now. I want Caldwell to explode before Olivia becomes a hero." That evening, Ethan came to the hospital. No flowers, no empty apologies. He stood far from the bed, voice trembling. "I know I've lost you, but Olivia, I beg one thing, let me still be Emma's father. I'll do anything to protect her, even face Vanessa in court." Olivia studied him long. Her eyes held no love, only a cold agreement. "If you truly want redemption, prove it with actions. Stand against her, not to save the company, but to save our daughter from a predator." Ethan nodded. For the first time, he saw his path clearly. Late at night, Manhattan slept, but in Vanessa's apartment, lights burned. On her screen, gigabytes of confidential data uploaded to an anonymous server. Her smile gleamed like she owned the city. She whispered to herself, "This isn't just a love war anymore. It's survival, and I never lose." Meanwhile, Olivia sat in her hospital room, holding Emma, vowing, "You'll never grow up in fear. I'll protect you, even against the world." That morning, Manhattan's federal courthouse buzzed with reporters. Flashbulbs popped on the stone steps. Crowds pushed, eager to witness Ward versus Cole, the scandal of the decade. It wasn't just an affair. It was a trial of corporate espionage, blackmail, and mental abuse. Ethan Ward stepped from an SUV, pale, in a neat suit but with sleepless eyes. Beside him, Tyler Brooks stood firm, clutching a briefcase. Behind them, Olivia Carter appeared. No longer the broken wife, she wore a simple navy dress, hair pulled high, eyes calm yet sharp. In her hand, she held Emma's tiny fingers, the baby in a mobile crib carried by a nurse, a living symbol of why they were here. Across the way, Vanessa Cole arrived in blazing red, walking like a movie star. She smiled at the press, waving lightly. "I'm just a woman who loved the wrong man," she said sweetly. But her eyes hit a cold blade. The trial began. The prosecutor presented evidence. Blackmail emails, Vanessa's voice recording to Ethan, and Caldwell's internal data found on her laptop. The proof was undeniable, but Vanessa sat upright, her smile unwavering. Those documents, her lawyer argued, were shared willingly by Ethan. Vanessa didn't hack anything. If there's guilt, it's Ethan's a CEO using his mistress to hide business failures. The room buzzed. Ethan bowed his head, sweat beading. But Tyler stood, slamming the table. "No, here's the truth." He played internal camera footage, showing Vanessa stealing Ethan's keycard as he slept at his desk, logging into the server at midnight. The images shattered her defense. For the first time, Vanessa's smile faltered. But she regained composure, leaning back, eyes locking on Olivia. "You think you've won?" she said, loud enough for the courtroom. "He chose me. He bought me a ring. He was going to leave you. Olivia, you're clinging to a man who's no longer yours." Olivia took a deep breath and stood. Her voice was steady, not angry, but filled with proud calm. "You're wrong, Vanessa. I'm not here to keep Ethan. I'm here to protect Emma, the child you nearly killed with your manipulation. You can take my dignity, my marriage, even Ethan's career, but you'll never take my daughter's future." The courtroom hushed. Olivia's words rang like a verdict before the judge's gavel. Reporters scribbled, some wiped tears. Vanessa laughed, but it cracked. She stood, eyes wild. "You think I'll fall? Caldwell will collapse. Olivia will be forgotten. And I'll be remembered forever." The judge's gavel struck 3 times, voice booming. "Order. The court has reviewed the evidence. Vanessa Cole is charged with unauthorized data access, blackmail, and mental abuse causing medical harm. The trial moves to sentencing. Compentrin one ling, and wolle." The gavel's echo was a final bell. Vanessa was escorted out, her face twisting in rage. Before disappearing, she turned, shouting at Olivia, "You'll never truly win. Ethan will betray you again." Olivia only held Emma tighter. She didn't need to retort. The peace in her heart was her answer. As the trial ended, reporters swarmed, but Olivia didn't shy away. Holding Emma, she spoke firmly. "I'm not here to win a man. I'm here to say women, especially mothers, shouldn't stay silent when abused and betrayed. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor." The crowd erupted in applause. Numbers stand with Olivia soared, and her image, holding Emma as she left the courthouse, became a symbol of strength and pride. Ethan watched from afar. He knew she'd never forgive him. But he also saw she'd saved not just herself but him from Vanessa's invisible chains. Tears fell, not for losing a wife, but for witnessing her rebirth stronger than ever. That night, Manhattan glowed as always. In her new rented apartment, Olivia set Emma in her crib. Moonlight streamed in, illuminating the baby's sleeping face. Olivia sat by the window, closing her eyes. She was no longer a woman waiting for love to save her. She was a mother, a warrior, a testament that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself. Elsewhere, Vanessa sat in a cold cell. No red dress, no lipstick, just gray walls and thick silence. She finally understood. Not Olivia, not Ethan, but her own ruthless ambition had led her here. Dawn rose over Manhattan, sunlight streaming through Olivia's new apartment. She set a hot tea on the table, smiling softly at Emma's babbling in the crib. Life had shifted. No more lavish parties or tense shareholder meetings, just quiet days raising her daughter and rebuilding herself. On the wall, remnants of the brutal fight were just photos and articles tucked neatly in a drawer. Olivia didn't need to revisit them. The most important thing was here. Emma, the symbol of survival, of a new start. Ethan visited Emma regularly, with the humility of a man learning to be a father. Tyler remained a loyal ally, helping Olivia navigate lingering financial ties. And Vanessa, a shadow of the past, vanished behind bars, leaving a costly lesson for anyone trading humanity for ambition. Olivia looked at her daughter, whispering, "We walked through hell, Emma. Now it's time to learn to live in the paradise we build ourselves." The baby's eyes opened, clear and trusting. The future was no longer something to fear, but a door wide open.
The sharp crack of a slap shattered the opulent hush of Los Angeles's most exclusive art exhibition, where neon light bathed million-dollar canvases in an otherworldly glow. Elise Nguyen, 7 months pregnant, crumpled to the polished marble floor, arms instinctively wrapping around her swollen belly as tears streaked down her cheeks, mixing with the warm sting of blood. Across from her stood her husband, Marcus Lee, a celebrated millionaire, his hand still raised, an image burned into the stunned gazes of hundreds of elite collectors, and the smirk of his mistress, Zoe Kim. Cameras flashed. Gasps rippled. Within hours, the footage ignited a global firestorm of outrage. But the world had yet to uncover the darker truth that Elise was the real artist behind the stolen masterpieces on display. Now, the question was no longer whether she could survive this humiliation, but whether she could rise, reclaim her name, and fight for the justice owed to her and the child she carried. Beneath the molten gold of a Los Angeles afternoon, Elise Nguyen once believed her life was a flawless canvas, where bold brushstrokes danced with the American dream she had chased since girlhood. Born in a humble village along Vietnam's Mekong River, she had painted to outrun days heavy with hardship, each stroke a whispered prayer for a brighter tomorrow. Arriving in America with nothing but raw talent and an unshakable hunger, she was swept into the electric pulse of the City of Angels. It was there, at a modest downtown art exhibit awash in neon and street color, that she met Marcus Lee. With his disarming smile and the glittering prestige of owning the famed Lee Gallery, he seemed like the missing piece in her masterpiece. He vowed to lift her art into the stratosphere, turning her untamed dreams into shimmering reality. 6 months later, they wed in Malibu, the waves crashing like ancient blessings on a future painted in light. But beneath the satin and champagne, Elise slowly learned the price of her choice. At just 25, she had traded her own rising star for his shadow, spending endless nights in a hidden studio where the whirl of her brush mirrored the quiet ache of an immigrant's solitude. Each abstract piece she birthed pulsed with her story, bursts of color for hope, deep shadows for homesickness. Marcus hung them in his gallery under his own name, selling them to Hollywood's elite for millions. She told herself it was love, a way to build their life together. But at 7 months pregnant, everything shifted. The gentle kicks within her felt like a lighthouse in dark waters, reminding her she was more than the sum of her sacrifices. The late-night calls, the perfume clinging to his shirts, the growing chill in his gaze, each sign etched suspicion deeper into her heart. One midnight in their glass-walled penthouse above the Pacific, her pulse roared in her ears as she unlocked his phone. The screen bloomed with messages from Zoe Kim, the celebrated critic who had once crowned Marcus's works genius. "Tonight, he'll prove our love," followed by a heart emoji, the words cut like glass. Zoe, statuesque and magnetic, was a fixture in the art world. Elise had endured her syrupy greetings at events, each one steeped in smugness. Now those praises rang hollow, mocking. Had her gift been stolen to feed this affair? Tears blurred her vision, but a spark ignited within. She would not let her child's future be built on lies. The night of the Beverly Hills exhibition arrived. Under chandeliers blazing like constellations, the city's wealthiest milled with flutes of ruby wine, pausing to admire her paintings, each labeled Marcus Lee. Elise, her body slowed by the weight she carried, moved among them with a practiced smile. Then Zoe appeared, draped in black silk, her smirk a dagger cloaked in sweetness. "Sister Elise, you're so lucky to have Marcus, a true genius," she purred, her eyes glittering with conquest. The air thickened. Deceit spread through the room like ink bleeding across linen. The dam inside Elise broke. Months of swallowed humiliation surged into her voice. "Zoe, I know everything. Marcus, explain yourself." Silence slammed down. Collectors froze mid-sip, phones lifted to capture the scene. Marcus stood rigid, his face a mask of heat and shame. Zoe edged back, but her gaze never wavered. Then a sharp kick inside her, as if her son himself urged her forward. She was no longer just the betrayed wife. She was an artist reclaiming her stolen name, a mother defending her child's tomorrow. And under the glittering light, her pain transformed, becoming a portrait of defiance the whole room would never forget. All right, before we dive further, tap that like button and subscribe if this story's hitting your heart. Drop a comment sharing where you're watching from and the time on your clock. I love knowing the corners of the world we're all connected from.
The sound of the slap echoed like thunder striking through the serene space of the gallery, where the sparkling chandeliers suddenly turned icy cold. Marcus Lee, his face flushed crimson with a storm of rage mixed with shame in front of the elite crowd, delivered a forceful blow to Elise's cheek, the slap leaving a blazing red mark like an furious brushstroke on the canvas of her life. Elise crumpled to the cool marble floor, her hand clutching her face as blood trickled from the scratch, her body quivering but her spirit refusing to break. The child in her womb kicked with fierce strength, like a silent whisper reminding her to stay resilient for that precious little life. The surrounding crowd was profoundly shocked, murmurs rippling like undercurrents. Mr. Victor Reyes, the billionaire art collector from Hollywood with a collection worth millions, shook his head in deep disappointment, muttering about the utter shamefulness of the act. Zoe Kim stood beside Marcus, her lips tightly pressed to conceal the fleeting triumph flashing in her eyes, as if she had foreseen this very moment of collapse. Would that slap truly mark the end of the dream, or was it merely the spark for an unexpected uprising? The secretly recorded video by a guest in the crowd spread rapidly across TikTok and Twitter, exploding within the first hour with the hashtag number Marcus Lee Slap, drawing millions of views from all over America. The image of Elise collapsing, her heavy pregnant belly amid the opulent setting, touched the hearts of countless women, those who had endured betrayal and emotional violence in a male-dominated world. Social media erupted in waves. Posts sharing personal stories, from homemakers in the Midwest to young artists in New York, all condemning Marcus as a symbol of the rot within the upper echelons. Elise was rushed back to the penthouse, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, where the rhythmic crashing of waves now felt distant and lonely. Her body ached from the wound, but her spirit was shattered even more, the pain of betrayal piling onto those months of silent sacrifices. Marcus, now revealing his manipulative nature fully, sneered at his wife's suffering, claiming the paintings were his and that Zoe was the one who truly understood him. But behind that confident exterior, he had ensnared both women, promising Zoe a shared future to exploit her for promoting the gallery, while concealing forged contracts on ownership rights documents proving the true talent belonged to Elise. Have you ever wondered behind a triumphant smile how many secrets lie waiting to be exposed, leaving you regretful if you don't keep watching? Zoe, once a victim of manipulation by powerful men in the art industry, began to feel a surge of remorse flooding in as she watched the viral video. She gripped her phone tightly, memories of her own exploitations rushing back like dark patches in an abstract painting. Marcus had lured her with sweet promises, turning her into a tool to boost the gallery's fame. But now, the sight of Elise collapsing made Zoe realize she too was just a pawn in his game. Meanwhile, Elise lay in her hospital bed, tears streaming down and blending with her physical agony, questioning why the husband who once inspired her had become her enemy. The kick from her unborn child shone like a lighthouse, igniting the inner strength she had buried for the sake of love. The media storm hit with ferocious intensity. Reputable outlets like the LA Times and Vanity Fair published scathing articles portraying Marcus as the rotten core of the elite, exposing the downfall of those who seemed untouchable. Women across America shared their stories, transforming Number Stand with Elise into a movement where thousands voiced out on women's rights and stolen talents. What would happen when victims unexpectedly ally, and would remorse be enough to shift the balance? Amid that chaos, Elise received a call from her sister Lan, a sharp lawyer from San Francisco with extensive experience fighting for women's rights. Lan flew down immediately, bringing the first pieces of evidence. Old sketches from Elise's early immigrant days, with familiar strokes proving she was the true creator of those masterpieces. Elise, though exhausted, felt a glimmer of hope flickering as she hugged her sister tightly, memories of their childhood in Vietnam flooding back where the two sisters had shared dreams of a better life in America. Lan whispered words of encouragement, outlining a plan to turn the tables, transforming pain into a weapon. Meanwhile, Zoe wrestled inwardly, questioning if she dared side with Elise to atone or remain silent in the shadows of manipulation. The media storm raged on, unabated, with profound articles analyzing how the male-dominated art world had robbed women of their talents, stirring empathy from American audiences, those who saw Elise as an icon of resilient strength. In the penthouse still lingering with Zoe's strange perfume scent, Elise sat beside her sister Lan. Old sketches spread wide across the table like fragments of memories reviving from the past. Elise had never publicly declared herself the true artist, a secret she buried deep from her childhood days in Vietnam, where she drew on scraps of paper to escape poverty and the loneliness of a little girl dreaming of vast horizons. Migrating to America with only a pencil and yearning as her baggage, she poured her entire soul into abstract brushstrokes, where vibrant colors symbolized the immigrant journey, patches of hopeful green interspersed with shadows of estrangement. Marcus had exploited that in a cunning way. He pressured her to sign a collaboration contract under a romantic guise, but in reality it was theft of ideas, claiming all credit to build the Lee Gallery empire. Those paintings sold for millions to Hollywood collectors, but Elise received only a meager share, like faint strokes on the edge of the main canvas. She once believed his words that he would handle the rest, but now she realized he was merely a thief of talent, turning her dreams into tools for his personal ambition. With Lan's steadfast support, Elise began the journey of gathering evidence, each step like a brushstroke painting the path to justice. While Marcus was busy handling the media with Zoe, trying to extinguish the storm of public opinion with fabricated excuses, the two sisters quietly infiltrated the hidden safe in the penthouse, a cold metal box containing dark secrets. Elise's hand trembled as she unlocked it, and then the forged contract appeared, her signature clumsily faked, but enough to deceive the art world. Lan exclaimed, in joy mixed with outrage, calling it the key to unlocking the door to freedom. Those documents not only proved Marcus's manipulation, but also ignited the inner strength within Elise, transforming the pain from the slap into a burning drive. At the same time, Victor Reyes, the billionaire collector with a keen eye, reached out proactively, his voice full of suspicion after watching the viral video. He admitted being a longtime fan of Marcus's art, but had always felt the style was too feminine, too profound, too deep, not matching his masculine image. Elise, with a resolute voice, revealed the truth. She was the one creating those masterpieces, and Marcus was nothing but a fraud. The first element of surprise arrived like a shifting wind when Zoe called Elise on a pouring rainy afternoon in Los Angeles. Zoe, once exploited by men in the art industry to climb the ranks of fame, now wrestled with surging remorse after witnessing the slap video. She confessed that Marcus had deceived her too, promising to divorce Elise to marry her, but in truth using her merely as a tool to sell paintings, turning her praises into promotional weapons. Zoe's heart, once hardened by repeated manipulations, now softened when thinking of Elise, another woman victimized by the same male-dominated system. Deciding to switch sides, Zoe provided secret emails and recordings, sharp evidence proving Marcus's manipulation, from false promises to plans to eliminate Elise from the will. Elise, despite the agony from the double betrayal, accepted the collaboration for the sake of her soon-to-be-born son, seeing it as a necessary step to protect the future. The evidence gathered like a complete painting, where each piece from Lan's old sketches, the forged contract from the safe, Victor's testimony, to Zoe's documents painted the true portrait of Marcus. A greedy man hidden behind a glamorous facade. Elise felt the power spreading from the American women's community, those sharing stories on social media, turning Number Stand with Elise into a symbol of resilience. Her tears now were no longer signs of weakness, but sources of inspiration for the journey of rebirth. Victor promised to testify, using his influence to accuse Marcus publicly, while Zoe, with a trembling voice, committed to standing by Elise to the end. All of it formed a solid support network, where sisterhood, atonement through remorse, and justice converged, promising a climactic confrontation in court. The trial in Los Angeles transformed into a dramatic stage of high-stakes tension, where glaring light from the windows illuminated faces etched with strain, and Elise stepped in with her bulging belly, her gaze resolute like a queen rising from the ashes. From the solid support network she had built with evidence from Lan, the forged contract from the safe, Zoe's unexpected testimony, and Victor's commitment, Elise was now ready to confront the man who had stolen her talent and her trust. Marcus sat there, surrounded by an expensive team of lawyers, attempting to justify that Elise was merely an assistant and the slap was just a momentary reaction under pressure. But Elise, with a voice calm yet brimming with power, declared she was no victim but the true artist, presenting original sketches from her early immigrant days, the forged contract proving the deceit, and testimony from Zoe, the one Marcus had manipulated with false promises of love to praise his paintings, now admitting the real talent belonged to Elise. Zoe took the witness stand, her voice trembling but fierce, recounting how Marcus had exploited her to promote the gallery, promising a shared future only to conceal the truth that those emotionally charged abstract paintings with vibrant colors symbolizing the immigrant journey had all sprung from Elise's hands. The crowd outside the court erupted in cheers, chants echoing through the walls, while the hashtag number Justice for Elise spread widely on social media, turning into a nationwide movement where American women shared personal stories of stolen talent and betrayal. Victor Reyes, with his prestige from a Hollywood collection, testified convincingly he had bought the paintings thinking they were Marcus's, but now accused him of being a fraud, committing to support Elise by investing in her future. The courtroom atmosphere grew suffocating, each testimony like a brushstroke painting the picture of justice, where Elise was no longer a fragile shadow, but a symbol of unyielding strength, ignited by the gentle kicks of her son in her womb. The court's verdict rang out like thunder in a clear sky, declaring Marcus lost ownership of the gallery and must compensate Elise with millions of dollars, a ruling that not only returned property but also acknowledged her stolen talent. Marcus collapsed in his seat, his face paling, eyes once full of arrogance now flooded with panic, realizing his empire had crumbled under the weight of truth. Elise smiled softly, her hand caressing her belly, whispering inwardly that she had done it for her son, the true inspiration helping her overcome the darkness. Emotions surged throughout the courtroom. Tears streamed down the cheeks of supporters, applause echoing like an affirmation that women could lead, especially in the male-dominated world of art. American audiences, especially women from all walks of life, from single mothers in the Midwest to young artists in New York, felt an exhilarating thrill, witnessing Elise's rise, turning pain into victory, igniting hope that justice always exists for those who dare to fight. After the trial, Elise hugged Lan and Zoe tightly outside the courthouse, tears streaming down not from sorrow but from liberating joy, whispering thanks to her sisters for proving that women could lead in the battle against manipulation. Comments on YouTube and social media overflowed with praise. "She's an icon," one person wrote, reflecting the profound empathy from American audiences, those who saw in Elise a reflection of themselves in the journey overcoming adversity. The Number Justice for Elise movement didn't stop at the courtroom but spread as a source of inspiration, encouraging women everywhere to share stories, turning personal drama into lessons on inner strength. Elise, now freer than ever, felt the Los Angeles sea breeze caressing like a blessing for the future, where she would paint new works about motherhood and rebirth. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. Marcus Lee, once the king of Los Angeles art, now lay in utter ruin under the crushing weight of the court's verdict, where justice had stripped away the glamorous veneer to expose his manipulative core. From the pinnacle of his renowned gallery, he now had to witness the doors being sealed shut, clients boycotting in droves like a raging wave, forcing him to liquidate assets to pay off debts, those paintings once bearing his name, now symbols of his downfall. Zoe, with genuine remorse surging after the trial, publicly apologized on social media, admitting she had been wrong to join in that betrayal drama and viewing Elise as her true source of inspiration. She decided to abandon the trap-filled art criticism industry, shifting to support young female artists, transforming her painful experiences into motivation to uplift hidden talents. Marcus, in a desperate effort, tried contacting Elise to beg for forgiveness, acknowledging his mistakes, but Elise responded with resolute coldness, affirming that he had stolen her dreams and now she would reclaim it all. Would Marcus's downfall stop there, or were there deeper secrets waiting to be exposed? The second element of surprise struck like a whirlwind when Lan, with her sharp lawyer expertise, dug deeper into the safe, discovering not only the forged contract but also Marcus's personal diary, where he admitted stealing ideas from Elise to build his personal empire, viewing it as a clever strategy without a shred of regret. Those lines, written in cold penmanship, became fatal evidence, allowing Lan to file additional lawsuits, leading to a permanent ban on Marcus practicing in the field, a blow that cost him not just the gallery but his reputation in the art world. American audiences, following through social media and press, felt an overwhelming sense of satisfaction, with floods of comments like, "He deserved it," spreading, reflecting profound empathy for victims of male-dominated manipulation. Elise, now free from shackles, began painting anew, where warm colors like California dawn blended with themes of motherhood, each brushstroke whispering of inner strength and hopeful rebirth. Have you ever wondered, behind the failure of the villain, how many lessons await, leaving you regretful if you don't follow the next rise? Marcus, now living in isolation, had to face widespread consequences. Collectors who once adored him turned their backs, turning him into a prime example of the fake upper crust collapse in Hollywood. Zoe, on her path to atonement, joined workshops supporting women, sharing her story to warn the young, turning remorse into a guiding flame for the next generation. Elise, with support from Victor Reyes, sensed life's new flow. Those motherhood paintings not only sold out but inspired American women, from single mothers to struggling artists, reminding that stolen talent could be reclaimed through unyielding strength. The online community exploded with number Elise Rises, where thousands shared how her story ignited hope in their own lives, turning personal drama into a broad movement. What would happen when the victim becomes the leader, and would that healing journey bring new surprises? From the ashes of the old gallery, Elise built a new foundation, where she not only reclaimed everything but multiplied it. Manifold, those warm motherhood paintings becoming icons, selling out at exhibitions, proving American women could lead the creative industry without dependence. Marcus, now in exile in a hidden corner of California, watched from afar with belated remorse, realizing ambition had cost him not just the empire but his soul. Zoe, alongside Elise in support projects, found true peace, transforming their relationship from foes to steadfast allies. Audiences, especially U.S. women, felt deeply inspired, with overflowing comments on how Elise taught them to rise from pain, turning the story into a vivid lesson on resilience and justice. In the brightly lit Los Angeles hospital room, Elise gave birth to her son, little Alex, cradled in the warm embrace of Lan and Zoe, who had become pillars in her healing journey from Marcus's devastating collapse. From the ashes of betrayal and failure, Elise held the baby tightly to her chest, whispering promises to teach him how to paint and how to be strong, each word like a brushstroke painting a brighter future than ever before. Baby Alex, with eyes as clear as a California dawn, became her new source of inspiration, reminding Elise that motherhood was the power to overcome every adversity, transforming pain into sparkling hope, reigniting a fresh vitality in her once shattered heart. Would that healing journey open new doors, or was it just the beginning of a true rebirth? With inner strength ignited by motherhood, Elise opened her own gallery named Win Art Space in the artistic Silver Lake district, where the creative atmosphere overflowed like vibrant color patches on her canvases, symbolizing the journey from darkness to light. Victor Reyes, deeply impressed by Elise's resilience and talent after the trial, invested heavily to turn it into a hotspot for female artists, a space not just for displaying art, but for nurturing dreams obscured by the male-dominated system. At the crowded opening under shimmering neon lights, Elise stood there with a steadfast gaze, affirming that this was not merely a gallery but a community, where her paintings of motherhood and women's strength sold out completely, proving that American women could lead the creative industry with their own hands and hearts, inspiring thousands following on social media. Have you ever imagined that a gallery could become a symbol of change, leaving you regretful if you don't follow its spread? Inspiration from Elise's story spread powerfully, like undercurrents, with waves of letters from American women arriving from everywhere, from single mothers in the Midwest to young artists in New York sharing experiences of stolen talent in the competitive and biased art world. Elise initiated a fund to support young painters, emphasizing that artistic talent needed recognition, especially from women, those often pushed into the shadows by manipulation and prejudice. Zoe, in her enthusiastic advisory role, joined the fund vigorously, sharing experiences from her remorseful journey to help female artists avoid traps, creating a solid support network across America, where thousands of women found hope and strength to pursue dreams, turning personal stories into a broad movement against injustice. What would happen when that inspiration touches millions of hearts? And would Marcus truly regret in the shadows of exile? Marcus, now living in exile in Mexico, under the shade of failure and isolation, watched from afar on social media with belated remorse, gnawing like dark brushstrokes on the canvas of his life, witnessing Elise's gallery shining brilliantly. From art king to sidelined outcast, Marcus had to face lasting consequences. Reputation shattered, friends turning away, and each post about Elise's success like a cruel reminder of irreparable mistakes. Meanwhile, Elise held Alex under the warm California sunshine, painting new works about motherhood and women's strength, deeply inspiring American audiences that from ashes, anyone could rebirth stronger, leading the community toward a fairer future in the creative industry. Beneath a Los Angeles sunset burning the horizon in shades of crimson and gold, Elise stood by the tall glass windows of the new art space, cradling little Alex as he scrawled uneven lines across a crisp sheet of white. Each childlike stroke felt like a sacred emblem of renewal marks born from her long, arduous journey back to wholeness. Around them, the gallery pulsed with light, her post-motherhood paintings breathing life into every corner. It was no longer just a place to display art. It had become a sanctuary for stolen dreams to be restored, a beacon for women carving their place in the creative world. Here, thousands of American women burdened by betrayal and prejudice found the spark to rise again. Elise leaned close to her son, whispering about that night the slap that once humiliated her now transformed into a parable of rebirth. Each word she breathed felt like a warm brushstroke on a vast new canvas, promising that even in the deepest pain, color can bloom. Would this lesson ripple outward, stirring hearts desperate for hope, or was it simply the closing chapter of her own healing? The gallery's triumph outpaced every dream she once dared to imagine.
Under the neon glow of Silver Lake, exhibitions spilled over with guests. Her canvases' vivid tapestries of motherhood and female strength vanished from the walls as quickly as they were hung, each sale sparking national conversations about hidden talent. Elise stood not only as an artist, but as a cultural icon, her voice carrying into a TED Talk stage where the spotlight caught the unflinching resolve in her eyes. "We women," she declared, "do not just survive, we blaze." The room erupted in applause, the American audience recognizing in her their own battles against manipulation. From the Young Painter Support Fund she launched, hundreds of women discovered their paths, weaving a community inside the gallery's walls. Even Zoe, now an advisor, poured her hard-earned lessons into helping the next generation avoid the traps they both knew too well proof that women united could change the pulse of the entire industry. Have you ever felt how a single TED Talk could become a tidal wave, shifting lives far beyond the room that birthed it? The moral of Elise's journey rang sharp and clear. Never let anyone steal your dreams, for talent is your unshakable core, and motherhood an eternal force that can break any chain. Marcus, the once crowned king of the art world, was left in ruins, his gallery dismantled, his name erased, wandering in exile with nothing but regret. Elise, in contrast, held everything that mattered. Alex's laughter as a constant sun, a luminous career, stretching forward, and the rarest freedom of all the power to paint her own destiny. Across America, women of every background shared her story online, treating it like a flare in the night sky, proof that betrayal can seed victory. She became a lighthouse for the weary, a living testament that the American dream may fracture but can always be rebuilt, stronger than before. What might change in your own life if you dared to live by that truth, and could this ending simply be the prologue to another beginning? If you've walked through pain like hers, remember Elise, the woman who turned a public slap into the first step toward glory. Like this story if it stirs your heart, share in the comments how you would reclaim justice, and subscribe to witness more journeys alive with courage. Under that fiery sunset, she painted on Alex tucked close against her heart, knowing her tale was not an ending, but an open door toward an endless horizon where talent and the love between mother and child form an invincible crown, proving that from ashes, the queen will always rise.